https://discord.gg/flat-earth. Welcome to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord channel. Be sure to go to VC Chi Check and 1 to get your VC verification tags to get involved in the conversation about our Earth. Be sure to bring your verifiable Earth curvature evidence, though.
Enemy spotted.
Scott Mackay.
Proven it's obstructed yet. So far you've just inferred it's obstructed.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I'm doing. I'm inferring it's obstructed by looking at it.
So you don't see sun in the photo?
Right, so the conclusion would be if object goes behind obstruction, right, then I won't see it. Therefore, the Earth is a globe because the Earth is obstructing it. That's circular and fallacious.
No.
And empirically inadequate because we see the sun in the photo that I posted, which the other guy sent to me.
Yeah, but we all know that in about 15 minutes it'll be gone.
But that's fine. No, nothing wrong with that. The
We
point
all
is
know
that
this about that particular moment?
Yes, we do.
And how do you know that about that particular moment in that photo?
Because I've seen it 1,000 times.
You've seen that single moment 1,000 times?
I've seen 1,000 sunsets.
Okay, that's
all
great.
behave
So
remarkably the same.
Let's progress so we can answer the question for Gregory. So put that argument in a string that doesn't follow the form of the formal logic fallacy affirming the consequent, and then you won't be critiqued by Gregory for using that form.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm critiqued by Gregory, though, so you can critique away.
Okay, so I didn't say whether you're critiqued by Gregory or not. I said the form. Yes, there is a consequence that Gregory critiques you for it, but I'm just saying, why don't you just present it in a form that's not a logical fallacy?
Such as?
I don't know, dude. That's
demand that AI do your task for you.
Oh, look, I'm not unreasonable if you could present a logical, necessary conclusion where the premises carry the conclusion to a necessity, right? And it's not in the form of a logical fallacy. Look, I'm open to review that, but when I ask people for that, instead of getting that, what I usually get is, oh, that guy's an idiot, right? So, I mean, when you're ready to provide that, I will. You ping me, I'll review it, no problem. If you're not ready to provide that, then by all means, if you don't want to, that's up to you. It's your personal choice to use your time. It's fine with me.
So we're standing by.
I don't understand what the task is at the moment. I watch something go behind something else. I think I'm legitimately concluding that it's going behind that other thing.
Affirming the consequence.
So you don't understand the request to give sound argumentation rather than fallacious argumentation? Okay.
How is watching something unsound?
Okay, which is not what he asked you. So either you're unable in spite of your best efforts to understand what he just explained to you at least 3 times, or you're invincibly ignorant voluntarily. Either way, this is not good for you.
Why is it not good for me? I mean, you guys watch something happen with your own eyes and you deny it. How's it not good for you?
You don't know why it's bad to be invincibly ignorant voluntarily or be
wait a minute.
incompetent to think soundly.
I don't think I am.
Who's denying what they see with their own eyes? Who's denying that?
Do you guys see sunsets?
Yes, but what is a sunset? That's what's in contention. See, you say I see a sunset, therefore I see a sun going behind Earth curve. Those are 2 different things.
Yes, I know. But do you see it going behind something when it sets?
No.
What do you see?
Nobody does. Nobody
what
sees it going behind something. The spatial relationship information isn't present to determine that it's going behind anything. You'd have to be seeing it as a side view in order to determine that.
Really?
I'll tell you what I see. I see a portion of the sun circle become unresolved in my field of view in the final rendered image. That's what I see, and that's honest.
You see a portion of the sun circle become unresolved? What does that mean?
Yes. I can't resolve it in my image anymore. It's lost. It disappears. It's not apparent anymore.
So there is a time in this set where you see half the sun, right?
Let's just say there's times within the entire portion I'm looking at the sun where I can't see the entire sun. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And what it does is it goes from the full sun to a quarter of the sun to half the sun to whatever, right? That's what you see?
Yeah, and there's other videos that I've seen, not with my own eyes, mind you. I can't remember when I was in the desert, but I've seen videos from similar deserts where the sun just goes into a small, small thing above and then disappears from the field of view, never to be seen again.
But you also seen the same thing happen to the moon too, right?
Not quite similar, but not quite the same, yeah.
How's it different? Every time I've seen the moon set, it looks exactly like the sun setting. Part of it will be gone, then more will be gone, then more will be gone until it's all gone,
But yeah, in that
right?
manner, yeah, sure.
So
What do you think's happening there?
Is the question why do things disappear over the horizon, our apparent horizon?
No, the question is why do things disappear in that manner? Everything else I've ever seen disappear in that manner, where part of it's gone, then more of it's gone, then more of it's gone until it's all gone. It's
Okay.
always been a case where they're going behind something else.
Well, what about the
Right?
law of perspective?
Absolutely, and that's fair.
What about the law of perspective, though? Wouldn't you say
The law
that
of pers-
things also
You just
disappear over
categorically
the
deny
horizon?
that, Beasticles. Can you believe that?
The law of perspective does not work that way. That's not how things disappear in the law of
Explain to us
perspective.
the law of perspective. Explain to us
they
how
just-
perspective works, please.
They just get smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't resolve them anymore.
Exactly. So,
But that's not what I saw. It's not what you
Okay.
see.
Okay, I'm about to post an image for you, and you tell me what's happening here. You tell me what the sun went behind, okay? You ready? Let me know when you're looking in the chat.
Well, I'm actually putting away dishes right now, but
Oh, so you can't see it, and you're not going to be able to tell me what the sun goes
no,
behind,
I'll
right?
look. I'll look. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Tell me when you're ready. Okay, here we go.
I'm ready.
What is the sun going behind?
Oh, I don't know. It's dark.
Well, watch the whole thing. What does it go behind?
It stopped. Oh, wait, hold on. It was
Those who
dark.
can't
It kept moving on me.
Yeah. It kind of looks
Okay,
like
there.
it's being sucked into itself for those
Yeah,
who
it
can't
does. It
watch.
does. See how it's disappearing, looking like everything going behind something?
doesn't look like
Have
it's
you
going
ever seen-
behind
Yeah,
anything.
I've
No.
seen that. I just want to say for the guy who posted it, I've seen similar disappearances of boats on my local lake, which is about 330 meters across.
But did anybody observe there a circle getting smaller and smaller? Anybody?
Oh, that doesn't look like that. No, in that
Okay,
image, no, it doesn't.
yeah, so nobody saw a circle getting smaller and smaller, did they? Which is what the law of perspective would dictate, right?
The law of perspective
Oh, yeah,
dictates that the object, which may or may not be a circle that gets smaller and smaller till it disappears.
You
No,
said it just
you know
disappeared.
what I mean.
So
Don't play the game.
obviously it got smaller and smaller till it disappeared. You didn't watch it very closely.
But it was not a circle, right? That thing is far from a circle. It's got a flat
And
bottom. How would the
Better
law,
and
according to the law of perspective, how would a circle disappear according to the law of perspective? What would it look like as it's disappearing?
getting smaller and smaller as it
Well,
goes further away.
And it would look like a circle the entire time, right?
And
yeah, until it falls below the resolvability
This
limit.
guy's another obfuscation artist. I don't know why you're back again.
Is that what you see? Did you see a circle getting smaller and smaller?
What's
it was
your
rather ovular
Well, the thing is,
shape. So what? And
Angular
So you just
resolution.
denied your own premise, right? You said it could
no,
be.
no,
What's not?
friends.
sit
The
in
law of
anything other than
perspective
Blueprint
in
because he's an
regards to
obfuscationist?
linearity, fair, but the law of perspective in regards to linearity is an ideal model, right? Like, especially if you're trying to use like lines you draw, like an artist would draw. Okay, light interferes with itself, and you have angular resolution limits of the optic and the wavelengths and all that things that you have to take in as compounding factors. It's not simply a straight ray linear relationship in reality.
So are you going to focus on the disappearance phenomenon that we observed, or no? Scott Mackey.
Well, but we've agreed that this image, or what we just saw, does not confirm the law of perspective, right?
But I didn't ask you that. I asked you, are you going to focus on the phenomenon of the object, the sun, disappearing? Yes or
Okay,
no?
I thought I was focusing on it. What do I need to focus on specifically?
It disappeared,
Right.
right?
So when we observe the GIF that Radwin posted, the object is obviously not behind some other non-transparent object when it disappeared. You're gonna account for that or no?
It's not going behind anything.
Well,
All right, Gregory, I got another
it
one
was
that
going
you might
behind
not have
something,
seen.
but
How does it go behind something? It just disappears. It doesn't go behind, and you could see the horizon
All
line
right.
below where the sun is. You could see it. It's not going behind
Yeah,
it at all.
absolutely. Before he replies, Gregory, watch that other video there that I posted. It's a little bit different than the one our other friend posted there. It's very short. I think it's a
what I
minute.
find
I'm gonna watch it now.
yeah, what I find interesting is you all find these one video that seems like an anomaly. You ignore the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands that are not anomalous.
Well, do you see the location that AI posted? Do you see how it's in Africa, right, near the equator? Now, if you were more north, let's just say in Ireland, right, you wouldn't be that the sun wouldn't look like that. Get what I mean? It wouldn't appear to go that small and disappear behind the horizon, right? It would be at a different angle because it'd be closer towards the north. Just like how you have like that movie 30 Days of Night, right? Like there's certain places on the earth where the sun looks different depending on where you are. So yeah, not every instance of every sunset's going to be the same. It's ridiculous.
But I mean, it could just be easily arbitrated by demonstrating the direct surface measurements of the radius in question, and then you wouldn't need to worry about what the sun's doing because the sun ultimately is an optical effect. So if you just
can't really reach
measure
out
the
and touch
object in
it,
question
right?
directly, yeah, but it's fair to argue back and forth. Both sides need to appeal to optical effects for anomalous data, regardless. So the most concrete way to arbitrate the proposition flat Earth versus globe is just to measure the ground, and that is the only single logical contingency of a necessity to the shape of an object is the object itself, not ancillary viewpoints or objects that are not fixed to it. So that should be where the ultimate argument is, not interpretations of sky phenomenon. And with that, I'm going grocery shopping.
The problem is the fact that the measurements of the ground are also affected by optical effects.
Yeah, speaking of grocery shopping, everybody should be growing their own garden. You know, don't spend hundreds of dollars on like fresh soil and stuff because you should be able to keep your own soil. Composting, a little bit of manure sometimes needed, but not always. No till, because tilling just disturbs the natural habitat and ecosystem under the soil. Worms, fungus, you want those to live there with your
There's
garden.
plenty of people talk shit in here. If you need to harvest,
Oh,
if you
you're
need
breaking
to
up, Spake.
harvest, there's loads of shit that gets spoken about in this server. For sure.
Can't really hear what you're saying,
What
Spake.
about now, bruv? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
What about now, bruv? You hear me okay now? 1, 2, 1, 2.
They hold sentence?
Yeah, I was actually
No,
over in
it's
the
not better.
other and 24/7. I never meant to come over here, man, so I'm going to go back. Pardon?
So AI, did we already establish that we've shown empirical data that disproves
Why?
the affirming consequent, the affirming the consequent
Talking about
logic
my
sequence from Scott Mackey that the sun is
audio
only
then.
obscured by the supposed spherical
That's not
surface of the Earth?
I'm having
Oh shucks,
issues
AI is not in here.
with my fucking
Spec, you're having
Wi-Fi.
connection issues. You're
Is
cutting
there
out
more?
all the time.
Quetzalcoatl, were you talking to me?
No, I said Spec. He's cutting out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the appeal to sunsets is an insufficient appeal to prove that we live on a ball with a spherical surface.
It isn't.
Okay,
because
how can we
the
approve? How can we prove it to you then? What would we need to do to prove it to you?
Why do people ask that question? Do you never study logic?
Give us a task.
Like, why do you ask, how do we prove it to you? Like, persuading me doesn't mean that you sufficiently proved your position to be true. You can persuade me, and your
But you're the
position is
person
still
I'm
false.
talking to. But you're the person I'm talking to right now, and so that's all I care
Regardless.
about at the moment. So you don't have a way, right?
No, your attempt to appeal to tell me how you can persuade me is irrelevant. So you persuading me doesn't mean that you've proven your position is true.
But you just reject every bit of evidence that we provide you. We say it's insufficient
But I don't.
for some reason. But you do.
Well, if your presentation is insufficient, then yeah. And if I recognize it, I'm not going to accept it, of course.
Well, how about geodetic surveying then? Would you accept that?
Okay, explain the logic sequence.
Look, my position is simple and complex at the same time. If you're not gardening for your own food, then you don't know how your food grows, you don't know what's involved, and you don't understand all the life is beneficial to you all around you.
Okay, so Scott Mackey, explain the logic sequence. So your next appeal is to suppose a geodetic surveillance.
It's
So
not
go
a
ahead and
logic
explain the logic
sequence.
sequence.
It's an engineering sequence. People go around and they put these theodolites in places, and they measure the angle of inclination, and they measure the scan, the sideways, and they point at other objects, and they put all these things together, and then they do the math, and they figure out the exact size of the Earth. Why
Did you
then
say
it's
angle of
the Earth.
inclination?
Yes.
You measure angles with at least 2 lines, correct?
They measure the no. Yeah, they do. Yes.
Right. So, like when you use a protractor, right?
Yes.
The angles from 90 degrees or
Yes.
180 degrees.
Yes.
That's on that flat baseline, right?
No.
No, it's on a curved baseline.
It's off plumb.
It's off plumb. Is that a curved baseline or a flat baseline?
Plumb. It's straight down to the middle of the center of the Earth.
So
Plumb.
it's a flat baseline, straight, right?
No. It's plumb. Do you not know what plumb is?
Are you trying to make sense? What is plumb?
What is
Is it
plumb?
a flat baseline or a curved baseline?
Just tell me you know what plumb is first. What is plumb?
Can you answer my question?
It's not a baseline as you're thinking about it, at least as you seem to be saying.
It's not a baseline. Which line is it out of the two?
Plumb is straight down. It's a straight line
Straight
going
down.
straight down.
Straight down to what? A flat baseline or a curved baseline?
It's just going with gravity.
Okay, but you're trying to measure angles, yes?
Yes, and we can measure an angle off plumb, right?
So when you hang the plumb bob, it's hanging on a straight string, correct?
Yes.
Right, not a curved string.
Yes. Is this difficult for you to grasp?
Oh, you're measuring angles from the surface, correct? The surface of the Earth, right?
No, we're measuring angles off the plumb bob.
Off the plumb bob.
Yes.
Can you show me a demonstration of this? Because it's not making sense.
I
Sorry.
posted it for you in text. What he's talking about. I posted exactly how they do it. So they got these weird fucking curved triangles and shit they use.
I mean, surveyors have mastered this technique, and they've been using it for hundreds, if not thousands, or hundreds of years at least. And as a result, they know where everything is. Pretty cool.
Inclination from a vertical line?
Yes, of course. If you have vertical, you can assume horizontal is 90 degrees off of that, right? That's the definition of horizontal, 90 degrees off vertical.
90 degrees off vertical, right? Not from vertical,
What's the difference?
right? So you just refuse to acknowledge that you're measuring angles from that horizontal baseline inclination, right? You don't have an inclination moving away from a vertical line.
Sure we do.
Moving from left to right of a vertical line, that's not inclination.
It's the same numbers, though. It's the same math.
Talking
I'm
about
sorry this is
vertical
confusing
lines
for
and
you. It's not really that hard, though. It's the same math.
That was a cacophony. There's no sense to what we just said.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to yield and let one person speak.
Oh, is someone speaking? Did I have someone muted? Shit, sorry.
So they walk out on the surface of the earth. They have a plumb bob. They hang it. Then they supposedly measure an angle from it.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
So explain the logic sequence again.
That's it. There's no
Right,
logic.
you might as well
to
write it down in the open chat.
Is somebody else talking right now?
no.
Okay.
We're
I mean,
analyzing.
if you want, you can always go take a surveying course, right? And they'll explain this to you in every last detail. So if you can just do the math, some basic trig, you can do surveying yourself.
We're analyzing.
And you don't have to trust anybody.
So that's why it's so quiet. We're taking notes on you.
Cool.
So Scott Mackay, please write your logic sequence in your appeal to geodetic survey and your attempt to prove that the Earth is a ball.
The Earth is a globe.
My logic sequence is people go out and take measurements.
Please write it down. I think you're avoiding writing it down in the open chat so that we have an objective record to not make any mistakes about what you said. I'm not going to play this game of can we struggle to remember history.
Well, fine. Don't play the game. I don't care.
So if you want to do what is most conducive to completing this discourse, please do so.
Oh, I'm under no illusion that this discourse is ever going to complete.
So you don't want to complete this discourse. You just want to fill the air with bloviation. Is that right?
Well, actually, I don't think it's possible to complete.
Can I get my check?
No matter how well I
Okay, so then
explain
there's no
you are
point in
not
having
gonna
this
understand
discussion. Then you can't improve your position because the discourse can never be completed, can it?
No, I can't prove it to you.
Speak,
Is
we
my
hear you now.
audio coming through?
Yeah, speak. We hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank fuck.
Yeah. All right, go
Having
on.
issues, man. Carry on. I just wanted to check I could come through then, man. On you go.
Okay, continue, I guess.
Here's the thing. If I had a proof for
So write down your logic
Pythagorean
sequence since your argument is obviously so rock solid and we're so stupid. Just write down the logic sequence if you want us to know the truth, and then we'll examine it. And your appeal to geodetic surveillance.
I don't think you all are capable of knowing the truth. There's something blocking it in your minds, and I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, well, whether we are or not, please write down, please do your due diligence and do the procedure proving your position is true and your appeal to geodetic surveillance.
What do you guys always say? I'm not going to do your work
What
for
the fuck
you.
is geodetic surveillance? What is that?
Ask Scott Mackey. He's the one appealing to it. So
Surveying. He's trying to say surveying.
You get paid for the survey?
yeah, surveillance,
Scott,
surveying.
I believe
Right.
what he's asking for is that you put your argument into words that we have a record of. We don't need to go back to record the videos, and now we can look. Oh yeah, that's what you said.
But there are entire
Yes, he
books.
has a
There are
very simple
courses
demand. That
that
other
teach you how
gentleman
to
that
do
just
this.
spoke got it. So go ahead, Scott Mackey. Please do so.
But there are college courses that teach you how to do this. And you think I'm going to be able to do it on Discord by writing a few
I didn't go to
notes?
college.
So after the past 5 or 6 replies, you're effectively telling us you're not going to do that, right?
Scott, no one's asking you to teach a course. Just take 1 or 2 formulas that are pertinent to the discussion and put them into writing. Or
I
you
mean,
could
just
But I
say
can
them in
write.
put your
words.
logic
I can
sequence
write down the
in the open
formula, but
chat
you
and your
don't.
appeal to geodetic surveillance.
But if I wrote down the formulas, you guys don't understand what any of the variables are, how to derive those variables, and how to measure those variables. What's the point of
So
putting in
how does
formulas?
our inability to understand your argument absolve you of the burden of argumentation to prove your position?
Scott, like I said earlier, if that's you in your picture, I'm half your age and I know all the formulas you're talking about. Just make your
Okay.
argument.
Yeah, let's speak to him then, because Scott's a waste of time. He's been coping for
There's a
days
whole
now.
table.
Tremendous waste of time.
Yeah, let's
I'm
move
not
on
on
to someone
Scott's
who can.
side, so I'm not going to speak for him.
Well, move on to someone who can have the discussion, because Scott's an absolute waste of time. He's a grown man who's too emotional to actually have the discussion.
Have y'all played Starfield yet?
That game. You're not ready for that game.
Nah, but I've seen it advertised on fucking
I
every
should play
bus
that
that
game.
goes
Right.
past.
The game will blow your fucking.
Yeah,
What
shitty
is it?
reviews though. It's not that good at launch.
What is it? Is it like a first person shooter or what?
It's like a third-person MMO.
Oh, fuck.
Float in space. Space is real, remember?
I wonder if you can get it on the iPad.
Mm,
You know,
probably
Star
not.
Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, Starfield, Star Child, Star Stuff. You know, it's all about the stars. Amazing they don't just leap right into astrology. And of course, you know it's the fundamentalist scientists who made the game. Right? That is their shit. That is what they want. That is what they want. So how dare you come along and scrutinize their worldview, including their cosmic paradigm? But they could do it to everyone else, though.
How do they explain gas balls in a vacuum in that game?
That's a good question.
He made an idea called force the line and torque the line. Torque the line failed because there's physics problems involved with the catenary effect on the line, so he was going to stretch a line through water. But he found out that the force is necessary to make the line mean anything over a great distance is practically impossible with his budget, or anybody's budget for that matter. So then he came up with force the line, which is essentially make a rigid structure, you plumb and level it, and then you attach panels to it that are true to the original with certain amounts of precision over a large enough span to where you can just look at it and see the Earth curving away or maintaining parallel to it. And that's what I was roughly talking about. Now, yes, that is pie in the sky, right? Not practically going to be done anytime soon for various logistical and financial reasons. However, you could essentially make a lattice structure similar to that, like they do in graphics programs, right? If you make a rectangle that's rendered, it could essentially be a bunch of triangular points, and the triangular measurements between points can prove that the overall rectangle is true, right? So you have a true 90 degrees and you could essentially create with floating point drones, at least in theory, minus wind and all of these things, to have like a constant measurement with interlaced drones floating in free space out far enough where you could say, okay, the ground is going away from it or not. I thought that was interesting because it would be theoretically affordable because drones aren't that expensive compared to a solid structure that would take umpteenth amount of construction.
I think the best part of the Force Aligned thing was a lot of the globalists had claimed flat earthers are, as their only proof of the globe, that flat earthers are uneducated and they don't know what they're talking about. They're Dunning-Kruger, all these things. So when you have a guy like Brian Mullins, which, master's degree, engineering, gainfully employed, it really was like putting salt on the wound because all their proof of the globe had just vanished.
Remember back in the day where they would always say this field has 0 flat earthers in it. So there's 0 flat earth pilots, there's 0 flat earth engineers, there's 0 flat earth this or that. It's like any time a flat earther comes out in those fields, they're castigated, blackballed, blacklisted, ridiculed. It's like, okay, maybe that's why nobody's coming out. Look at what happened to Mullen. A dude literally went on a psycho campaign to try to get the dude delicensed and fired from his profession, which feeds his family. I mean, despicable.
And it's weird when he justified it all the way up to George. He justified. He said he thought he was doing a public safety good, because if there's an engineer who thinks the Earth is flat, they could design something that could cause harm to people.
Yeah, that's stupid.
And you're like,
that would only matter if accounting for an alleged globe mattered in any construction project, which it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
That's the best part too. So it's like this person could use all the same math, all the same processes, all the same materials, but if one person thinks the Earth is flat, then it's a danger to society. If the other person thinks it's a globe, then it's okay.
Yeah, because if you think the Earth is flat, you can't do the equation for downward force upon a steel structure, because you just have to forego that, because for some reason it axiomatically means you're conceding to a globe, and if you don't believe in a globe, then you can't do that math. It's like, good grief. Down is down, okay? Everybody knows down is down everywhere we go. You don't need to believe in a globe to believe in down. That's just retarded.
So that's the best part, when they all their claims, instead of talking about the globe, they want to talk about flat earthers, and they plant their flag there. Flat earthers are 0 flat earth pilots. There's 0 flat earthers with above a 3rd grade education. So as soon as you show one, you say, "Hey, I've got a 4th grade plus education," then
do you remember that? Do you remember that Dutch female pilot that her story was basically, I've been flying for 20 years, and I believe she said she was using a mechanical gyro on a certain flight, and for some reason she had access to it where she noticed that it never flipped upside down, even though she went across allegedly a quarter or a half of the globe that's allegedly to exist. And she's like, wait a minute, if my plane is doing an attitude adjustment in free space around a large portion of an arc, my gyro should be opposite, but it's not. And then she had a light bulb moment. And then I believe after it was known that she became a flat earther, or at least was positing the idea as being like a serious question, all of a sudden she was blacklisted and blackballed. It's like, gee.
There was a pilot who was just on Looney Tunes who is a trainer, a guy who trains students, and had been doing so for a very long time. Everybody knew he's a flat earther. Somehow the globalists caught wind. Like, here's a pilot who's a flat earther. Can you real bad faith? Hey, can you come to my channel and talk about flat Earth? And all they did was just mock the guy for being disabled because he's in a wheelchair. They mocked him for his speech patterns. They called, once they found out what airport he was at, there was a letter writing and calling campaign to say, hey, you got to pull this guy's street.
Creed, we have SIC. She's agreeing to stop the LARP and the troll carrying act, and she's gonna have this conversation with adults. Okay. So
Okay.
she's a globe believer or a cartoon. She said she believes we live in I don't know, in some type of ice world or something. But hopefully, when she's unmuted, she's willing to have an adult conversation about this. So
Is
let's
that
try this one more time.
the giant
Just
ice
a
ball
quick
theory?
question before you go there, because you guys were talking about different fields. Are there any astronauts who don't believe in a globe?
Yes.
Two of them.
Well, hold on. There's at least one Russian cosmonaut
Okay.
who's said that the Earth is flat. And then there may not be any United States astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, most astronauts don't even leave Earth. They stay within low Earth orbit at best, which isn't even sufficient to see the Earth in its entirety. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, they may say, "Oh, look, I look out and it appears to be Earth to me." The portion that I'm looking at, but they can't see a sufficient sample size to ensure 100%, even if they were speaking entirely accurately and didn't have any orders or, secluded information that they're not allowed to give out. So I don't know.
A weird kind of little conspiracy you got going on there with
Yeah, not conspiracy.
like you didn't question her at all about the pilot who just told a story about some fucking gyroscope, but here we are. Like all I did was ask about the field of astronauts, and you're like, "There's a cabal," and
No, there's not. There's some of the astronauts.
I didn't
got
say
videos.
that. Hey, bro. I said that the people claiming, right, to be astronauts. Sorry, not that they're claiming. You could validate whether they're astronauts or not. I'm just saying that they're not in a position sufficient to answer the proposition definitively. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So, for example, different people, like let's say Neil Armstrong, for example. Neil Armstrong is supposed to have left the Earth at a distance sufficient to the test to say, I see the Earth in its entirety. Okay, so someone like him is going to have a weight greater with the ability to arbitrate the proposition if you believe what he says versus somebody who just went in high altitude. That's all I meant by all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Now, speaking of that, of the astronauts that left the Earth when they came back, they don't exactly have concurring stories, and a lot of them look like somebody kicked them in their soul. So I don't know if I trust them entirely.
But you'll
see what I'm
trust the
saying?
pilot talking about some fucking gyroscope. That's what I was.
Oh yeah, well yeah, a gyroscope is tangibly
Just
accessible on the
some
ground.
girl says her
Yeah,
gyroscope
just
didn't
some
turn
girl.
upside
Yeah,
down, and that's enough.
yeah. Those aren't analogous, bro.
Yeah, you messed up because she also faced all these consequences.
Yes, listen, claiming to go to a place, right, where less than a dozen people have gone in antiquity, versus something that's tangibly accessible to the common man, like a gyroscope. Okay, those are apples and oranges.
And even better too, it's like some of the astronauts talk about. I've posted 2 videos that Scott Kelly said the world looks flat. The longer you spend, the more time you spend in space, the longer you spend in space, you start seeing just a flat world underneath you. It's just small and flat. And people don't realize that at the height that they're at, you don't see the curvature of the Earth. Like this poor guy spurred out, huh? Look how powerful it is.
I mean, in principle, yeah, hold on a second. In principle, okay, if you leave the Earth here and you go over a certain amount of an alleged globe Earth and you follow an arced path, which you necessarily must do if you're in an airplane and you're maintaining altitude, let's just say 30,000 feet, you're going to maintain that altitude. In order to maintain that altitude, the attitude orientation of your plane will ever change to follow the alleged equivalation of the forces of gravity vectoring down, which will always change relative to your previous position. That means that of necessity, your plane has an ever constant change in attitude to follow the arc. That means that if you have a mechanical gyroscope spun up when you leave the ground and you arrive at a different location having followed an arc path, your gyro, if it doesn't have self-correcting measures to keep it horizontal to the plane, right, will roll back on itself. She just noticed, or claims to have noticed, that the gyro didn't do that, and that made her curious. Why didn't it do that? Because if I'm traveling in this manner, my gyro should do this, but my gyro did something else. That's not an unreasonable thing. Keep in mind, the burden of that story was to just illustrate that at least one pilot, right, made a conclusion that the Earth is not the globe that we've been told. So it's not the case that there's no such people in these particular fields.
So
Oh,
why do you?
another
But why
one,
do you?
Dr. John D., right? He's a PhD in optics, right? He went out and did some tests, and then he concluded there's no curvature. He did it with multi-band colored lasers to mitigate the excuse of refraction over the distances he did, and he found that the curvature that was alleged to be there, at least in his conclusion, right, from his summation of his knowledge of optics on the PhD level and his field test, he made the conclusion that the Earth curvature that they claim is present isn't present. So it's not the case that the summary of flat Earth proponents are the dregs of the retarded sub-IQ parts of society that people would like to believe.
So what do you think this pilot woman said when the other pilots told her that, or explained the phenomenon to her?
Which is what?
What
was the
phenomenon?
phenomenon? Yeah.
Well, this whole gyroscope thing that you guys seem to think that you're paying attention to this one woman and ignoring all the other pilots who say that, the gyroscope does change, because you can find thousands of them who say it does, but you're paying attention to the one woman who says it didn't. Why?
Yeah, but what do you mean the gyroscope does change? In what manner?
Pilots, every other pilot in the world will tell you that it does. The gyroscope registers the attitude change.
Okay, but in what manner? Because there
What do you
are
mean?
different types of gyros that have different self-correcting mechanisms. So, for example, some of them have pendulous vanes, which will not allow them to flip over on themselves. In general flight, don't get me wrong, in extreme flight, with extreme G's, you can force it. But in general flight, just, raising in altitude, maintaining your cruising altitude and landing, the gyro would never flip over on itself like would be necessary if you have a constant attitude change, because the pendulous vanes force it to follow the vector of down.
So what was this pilot claiming then?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll find her video and I'll post it in here.
All right.
Yeah, it's easy to find. There's a whole Quora thread about it. Pilots of America. My gyroscope says the world is flat.
Well, we have it over in 24/7. If you could look it up if you're not doing anything. I'm driving, so I really can't do it at the moment.
I was banned from 24/7 7 minutes after I joined that server, so I can't go there and look underneath.
What did you do wrong?
I told him Catalina Island was not San Clemente Island, and they said prove it. And some guy started counting down, and he says 10, 9, 8, and then I was gone. I never tried to go back, and I never will.
Probably me more.
Yeah, that sounds like a me more.
Yeah, it's like if you make a
let me ask you
claim.
this question: how long ago was that? Just out of
About
curiosity.
3 years, 3.5
3
years.
years. So that could have been that was probably Eric's. So we had a guy back in the day named Eric's, and he was just brutal. He liked to hang out in the introductory section and just give extreme ultimatums to people so he could have bans. Like his goal in life. Yeah, his goal in life was to have the most bans on any social media platform and get in the Guinness World Book of Records.
Yeah, he's in the memeless video, man. That's everybody thinks that there's been 4 or 5 million seen that video. I mean, you just go to it, they all think flat earthers are toxic like him just because of him.
Yeah, have you been to space to see? Have you been to space to see the whole Earth in its entirety? It's proof to me it's a globe. Let me know in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're gone.
That's what he did. Yep. But this was just identifying an island that I grew up next to.
Yeah, how come you didn't present that then?
Because he didn't have enough time, dude. Weren't you paying attention?
Yeah, he's like, hey, he just did. I grew up next to that island.
Justin was trying to take second place.
I said that. He didn't care.
Okay, your first story was that he started counting down and you didn't say anything and just took the ban.
It sounds like me more vet to me.
Ah, boy.
He might have known you from somewhere
But
too, because a lot of globalists get modded to globalist standards when they leave
Not
globalist
possible. It's
places.
the first time I was ever on Discord. I just
You're not
realized
banned
I
anymore.
heard
do you
it
want
existed.
do you,
Banned. You're no
do you
longer
want unbanned? I can have a look in the
Dude, it's
ban
fine.
list just now.
already
See if you're
unbanned. Already done.
All
Oh,
right.
okay, easy day. Now you can go look
But
up all the
I was
content.
banned, right? Why do you none of you guys go over to Gem Serve anymore? Argue with them. There's a whole bunch of people. I'd be glad to argue with you guys all day long.
toxic, man. There's pure toxic people.
Well, yeah. Why do we have to go to Gem server? So
You don't.
You guys,
I mean, I just wonder. I mean, I thought you why you don't.
after
Before
hearing
you
that
go-
story,
we
after
want
hearing that story about
Gem
that guy,
server. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
so I was just gonna say, after hearing that story about that guy that supposedly was a flat earther and was just banning everybody from your main Discord, I'm trying to figure out if
Well, Eric's are you
so I
talking
wanted to
about?
ask if you guys. So I wanted to ask you guys if you think there are people that troll you and try to say they believe what you do, but then say really dumb things.
Yes.
I
You
had a
catch
guy
them
the
all
other
the
day
time.
that told me that evolution was disproven if you couldn't prove you know, the curvature of the Earth, and I was just like, what the hell, dude?
Bro,
Like
see
that's
over
such a
in
red herring, you know?
VC checking and 24/7. It's like a sport catching these motherfuckers that are bullshitting, man. I can tell as soon as they start speaking if they're lying or trolling or they're here for a joke or whatever. You can hear them smiling when they're talking and stuff. I've got it down to a fine art, man. I can catch them straight away.
We had a guy that was with us for like 2 years, being like, not the best debater or informed, but seemed sincere, right? Kept ranking up, but he couldn't quite get to the rank where he really had access to the logistics of the background of the server. And something happened before he got there where he basically revealed himself. And then after that, he just spurted out everywhere from then on. But yeah, so they're making themselves into flat Earth for the intent of causing havoc or presenting a situation to where it can be mocked more so than usual, right?
Miggy got him. That was one of the best things.
And look, I'm sure there's people that do it transversely. There's plenty of yeah. We have it recorded. It's pretty hilarious. But
yeah, and I've been on Gems multiple times. So is AI.
I mean, don't get me
AI
wrong.
used to run the
There's
Bible
flat
section.
Earthers who are definitely
I used to go all the time, but
not right in the head that try to do weird tactics.
no. See, the last time I
One of
was
the
over
most
there,
famous ones is Right the Hand. If I've ever seen him, where he was talking crap about he could beat women up like crazy. Is that a real? Yeah, is that a real? Yeah, yeah. And we used to have Gem Panda and his guys over. Yeah, we used to have debates. Like they would come and we would do Friday night fights.
Hello, my friends. How are you all doing?
Used to be pretty fun.
So, what's everyone's actual opinion? Do you think the Earth is flat, or is it a bit of a piss take? What does everyone think?
Hey, can you hear AI talking, dude?
There's no
He's
AI.
Okay, what a moron.
I had to drop out as well.
It
I
was
couldn't hear
basically
someone
all
speaking
fun and
as well.
games, and we were all intentionally evil and malicious things to the people in Arson with
I don't know if
romantic
you can hear me now.
intentions to try to get them to go back to the globe Earth. And after that, we just realized that they're all, and so we just stopped hanging out. Yeah. Why would I want to hear? Yeah, I'll probably roll button. No big deal.
No, it's okay. It's not that bad. It was you were robot a little bit, but it was still eligible or
Bro,
eligible.
who are you speaking to? Because I can't hear anyone.
Oh, AI.
You need to leave and come back because it's AI. And yesterday I couldn't hear people, so I had to close the app and then reopen the app in order for it all to work again.
let's explore the claim that Scott Mackey made. If the Earth is a globe tard, no flat earther goes to Gems. I go to Gems almost daily.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, brother?
Yeah, I hear you, bro.
I just wanted to finish up in case anyone missed it. It's like a lot of us that were at 24/7 stopped dealing with Gem Panda and the main actors there and wanted to disassociate with them because in the background there was a lot of scandalous, malevolent, and evil intent going on towards members of our server. That for
For
certain
sure.
reasons we can talk about generally, but it basically convinced us that they are human garbage and there's no reason to associate with them, and so we just stopped.
Yes, yeah, man. I left the server fucking over a year ago, probably.
Yeah, when the
Dude,
very
I literally had to be on calls, okay, with women telling me about how Globers from there were trying to romantically manipulate them to convince them to go back to Globe Earth to win a bet. And I actually was in the room when they were talking about the betting, right? So a lot of these guys, including some guys that you wouldn't even think are that way, are they're just pieces of shit. That's the only way I can describe it.
yeah, Twitwit
Snakes, bro, snakes.
So what
really exposed that. Once Twitwit, she got sick of the Gem Panda people too, and she came over to the Flat Earther. She said, "Hey, I got to tell you a bunch of insider baseball. I want to let you know what happened in all these back channels, all the things they said, the schemes they planned. You know, like they'll pretend like they're talking to you. They'll pretend like you're human. In the back chat, they're organizing
I
different
mean, you
things."
just shut the fuck up, bro.
Correct. Was Twitwit, was that young girl
Yeah,
that used to just debate them constantly? Was that
yeah,
Twitwit?
Twitwit. Yeah.
She was hardcore, man. She never gave a fuck. She was right
Yeah,
in there.
she kind of learned her lesson. She was like, wow, these people are really bad. And she went on Geos and did like a whole hour long presentation about like, hey, this is what they're doing. Okay. They want you to die. They want you to shut up. They're planning, they're constantly planning and
But
scheming.
but
Who's
what are
doing
they
this?
without us, bro? What are these anti-globers? Anti-flat earthers without flat earthers? Like, if we weren't here, what the fuck are they going to do?
Yeah, it's really a TMZ BuzzFeed. That's what Gem Pandas is. It's like fans. They're all fans of flat Earth, and they're or conspiracy people too. They just want to have control at the same time. Or is that AI trying?
AI, you're ridiculously roboting. Huge robot. So, Crit, who are the people that Twitwit talked about?
Yeah, you can go back and listen to it if you want. Just go word for word and just listen to the whole thing. Go talk to Twit. She's actually been. I've seen her a couple times on Modern Day Debate Chat, and get right from the horse's mouth. Get all the slimy details, all the details about everything that was happening. And it was kind of good that the whole server kind of imploded there. And like half the people, like, they had a lot of changeover. And there's one good thing I've given props to Jem about is he really helped kind of clean house there, and he got rid of a lot of the really toxic people.
Who did he get rid of? I don't know anybody's got rid of since Twit was there. I'm genuinely asking.
Yeah,
Not even
and I'm
challenging.
generally telling you that you could look into this yourself.
Well, Twit doesn't talk to me anymore. I wonder if she talked about me.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting to. That maybe you probably could figure this out, but it wasn't
What
you.
couldn't I
Not that I
figure out?
remember. Yeah, because it was mostly about people who were mods and
Oh,
stuff.
I'm not a mod there, so.
Yeah. There was basically a channel that they had that only they could see, that they were kind of like planning, like, hey, how do you use these Discord mod perms to act like you want to talk about the topic, but you're constantly doing things to the person with these perms to make it seem, and shutting them down, make it look like they keep disconnecting, things like that.
How long ago was that happening? Because that has not happened in the 3 years I've been there. Hello? Can't hear anybody.
You may restart.
Oh, there you go. No, I heard you. Did you respond?
Let's shut it down, dude.
Because, to be honest, all it is the Pete and Johnny show these days, so it's not worth being there, which is why I'm here listening to you guys. But
That was the best part too. You're like, hey, you should go to this server to talk about flat Earth, and you don't do that. That's what always I find funny when people give advice that they don't follow. It's a real interesting peek into their worldview.
how so?
Yeah, think about it for a while.
I'm trying.
Okay. How about give me one thing that it would show? It would show that they have done what? Have not convinced themselves even to do what they think they should do?
But
follow that. Let's follow it, right? So
I'm
you
trying.
tell
I'm
me that
trying really hard.
I should what? I should do what? I should cut salt in my diet. Then I see that you're not cutting salt at all. Or
But I
I
never
should
said you
do
should.
no, just follow some. Yeah, you said earlier
Okay.
that we should all go to Gem Pandas right now
I
and talk
didn't say
about
that.
there.
I didn't say that.
All
I
right, what'd
asked
you
you why
say?
you. I asked you why you didn't.
I don't. You never seen me in Gem Pandas before.
I wasn't talking to you specifically. I was talking to the room. I was
Oh,
saying, why
okay.
didn't none of these guys? Why does nobody show up? Because there's nobody there at Gem Pandas anymore arguing about the flat Earth, and there's all kinds of people there who would love to argue with people about the flat Earth.
That's another thing too, where it shows us contradictory worldview. They went there to argue about the flat Earth, even though Jem said, "Hey, this isn't just flat Earth. It's flat Earth, but really kind of conspiracy theories." Then they get mad when no one's talking about the flat Earth, and then
No, they don't.
instead of actually just talking about it themselves, they spurg out.
Well, they spurg out because Pete's just talking crazy stuff.
Or also with each other too. That's the whole thing about the role that they give. I wonder, do you got that? They give a
Do I
role
what?
to the globe people who they deemed a liability to the globe. I don't want to say it because in this space it'd probably be offensive.
Which one?
Because
Oxford?
with yeah, there you go.
That's offensive here? Huh.
Yeah, just for a few different reasons. So Scott Mackey is. I'm surprised you're not. I'd be. I'd be like for sure. Maybe did you leave the server? Oh, you must have left the server and rejoined. Okay.
Why? I was never an Oxford there.
Yeah, because you said you've been there for 3 years. It says you
Yes.
joined October 15th.
Yeah, I left it after
Oh.
Jim yelled at me.
Yeah, okay. So Jem yelled at you, and you left it, and then rejoined, and then got your roles reset. I mean,
Yeah, it was about Pete and Johnny taking over the server, and I was getting just bored with listening to them, literally talk schizophrenic stuff. And I don't use that term lightly. Pete's literally schizophrenic.
Hey, Crit, I've
And
been here 10 years longer than you have, sir, so should own up to your respect for your elders.
okay, Roger, boss.
Just saying. I mean, I've been here for a long time.
I said Roger, boss.
Well, no, I respect
okay.
you too. I mean, I respect everybody on the server. I think everybody deserves respect on the server. I think everybody here is a intelligent, well, potentially intelligently, rationally minded thinking person.
I wouldn't go that far, to be honest. But a good portion of them.
Yeah,
so what
there's a good
happened this
portion.
morning? Why were you mad at me this morning? What happened?
Well, I thought you were a globetard, so it's okay.
Oh, I gotcha.
Well, so you're an anti-global then?
Yeah, I'm anti-Glober, I'm anti-Satanist, I'm anti-New World Order, anti-Bill Gates, anti-Ellen DeGenerate, anti-Whoopi Goldberg, anti-Antichrist.
Okay. I'm just saying that I enjoyed it. I like when people send me DMs like that. But I know I can see it probably comes from a misunderstanding.
Yeah, it usually is a misunderstanding. That's usually what they find actually statistically within problematic problem solving and critical thinking skills and solutions and such matters.
Here's
Such
one I just I just was going through some of the other ones that I had saved here. You're dumb fucking conning thief. You're on my shit list. I'm gonna make sure you're banned for good.
I've just been trying to use push to
Those
talk.
are good
And I
ones.
was
Those are
fucking
good ones.
muted. But I say what I was trying to say, bro, since I knocked myself on mute by accident. See, when you said about being anti-globe, like, I'm anti-globe, but I'm not anti-glober. Like, fair enough, some of them are assholes, but most of them are just fooled by the same story we were fooled by, man. So,
Oh yeah,
uh,
for sure.
I
Like
don't, I
I
don't
went
hold
through.
that against them.
Well, no, I went through the same thing they did in a sense because I was once a globe head. I was once thinking that I wrongfully believing blindly believing that I was on a spinning
Of course.
insignificant space speck, but now then I realized that I was on an immovable, created, designed, especially exclusive plane of existence in which uh is immovable, right? So there's no way. I mean, that's what I found out. What I found out in my experiments is that there's no way you can move the Earth unless through an earthquake or a volcano, or some type of comet, I suppose, or whatever falls from the sky that we think we know falls from the sky, but really isn't necessarily something
No,
falling from the sky. Like, for instance,
no, I
some
just,
things are considered sprites, and some things are considered comets or whatever people want to call them. But like, there is natural phenomena that is supernatural to some degree that has supernatural explanations. You know what I mean?
no, I was just saying that it doesn't make me anti-glober. Like, I'm not against these people, just because they're a glober.
Yeah, I'm not against necessarily globetards. I'm just against the whole mentality of being a globetard, like the idea that someone is on an insignificant space spec. I just don't think that is necessarily provable at all. I think it's totally
No, of course it's
irrational.
not. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. I just don't hold it against them. Like it's not like a fight against me against them. Like I'm not. I don't fucking. I actually feel sorry for them if anything, bro. Because they fucking. I was in the same shit. Someone took the time to tell me. They took the energy, and I was fucking. I thought it was hilarious when the guy told me I was tripping balls on a blotter. It was not LSD. It was a thing called M bomb, and I was tripping it. My mind. We had music pumping on my iPad in the 24-hour gas station, and we're talking about the Rothschilds and 9/11, all that normal conspiracy shit. And he just came out with, "Oh, there's no space." I'm like, what? And he's like, there's no ISS, NASA's not in space, blah. And I'm fucking pissing myself laughing at the dude. They're like, what the fuck? I'm like, gravity, Einstein, regurgitating all this garbage that I thought that I knew. And then a week later, I was like, right, I'm going to prove NASA's in space. And that was like almost 10 years ago. So if you search for fake NASA, you bought legitimate content. If you search for flat Earth, you got legitimate content back then. But bang, as soon as the first video came on, NASA fucking fell apart for me, man. I woke up the next day and I knew that the Earth was not what I believed. I never knew the Earth was flat, but I knew everything I'd been believing was fucking garbage just by discounting NASA.
Oh, it's so much easier. It's so much, well, I wouldn't say easier, but it's so much more thoroughly validated that the refutation of a globe Earth is there because, like, it's so much easier to say that, like, oh, this refutes that. But then there's what's more accurate, like, what's more naturally phenomena within the accurate reproducibility of experimentation, right? Like, and like, um, from what I've seen from experiments is that no experiment shows any curve from what I've seen, and no experiment
Gotta
shows
look
any
out more.
spin. Yeah, basically no experiment shows
So
any spin from what I've seen from what I've experienced. Like,
we'll not get experiments for the shape just because like experiments are establishing cause and effect. So we'll not get experiments at least for the shape claim. That would be like an observation or like laser test stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely not an
yeah,
experiment when it comes to shape.
So when you guys watch them launch rockets into space, how is that not an experiment?
It's
well,
not.
that's
I mean, you're not manipulating anything, are you? You're just
yeah. There's no
observing.
manipulated variable. There's no way that you could like make a hypothesis out of that. Like,
Hey
how can
guys,
somebody like how can somebody make a hypothesis out of, oh yeah, I'm sending this one astronaut or this a few astronauts into this orbital realm that exists
Pro
outside
tip,
of,
Jay. Pro tip, Jay. Ask him to give you the hypothesis. Go ahead, Scott.
or yeah, what's the
Guys,
hypothesis?
I did the experiment with the pendulum myself. How can you explain that if the Earth is not curved?
That's not an experiment, a pendulum, bro.
You know the one I'm talking about, right? You
Well,
start
it's what
swinging
calls
it, you wait some time, and it always goes the same direction.
right. But do you have to start swinging it, or does it start itself?
You have to start swinging it so you can get the
It's the
momentum
same.
going.
It's the same with the so-called scientific Foucault's pendulums that they've got in like observatory places and shit. Like they start them and they keep them going. They put energy into the system. They use magnets as well, supposedly.
But do you know what the claim is with the Foucault's pendulum?
Yeah,
Well,
that
it's the Earth.
the inertia caused
Yeah, I
by
know,
the Earth
but
spinning gets it to go all the way around, and that's I don't know what other explanation you have.
Well,
If
no, I
you
know.
have
No,
one, tell me.
I agree. I'm
Is it
agreeing
the
with you.
tension
I'm
on the
wondering
rope?
if
Like, see
knows.
this? Like, what kind of like on the rope? Is there some kind of issue? Like, I don't know. Like, all the variables. I've never done it myself, bro. So I couldn't really tell you.
But just what is the claim? Whether we watch it or not, what is the claim they're saying about this? What's the significance of Foucault's pendulum?
That shows the Earth is spinning because
I know.
the
I know. You know. I know. I want to know if
But
this other guy we're talking to
No,
knows.
should
I
be
want
drift.
to know what it claims.
There should be drift if the Earth is moving. The different
And
for
what?
but then
And the
they're
drift
saying
is
that
what?
all the atmosphere is supposedly moving with the Earth, so it's supposedly one reference frame. So they kind of pick and choose whether it's one or two.
Yeah, what is it? Is
So
it the Coriolis effect or is it the
Yeah, that's what it would be.
Is
You're
it?
gonna need
Oh,
inertial, non-inertial reference frame for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
do we all
where's the
agree that
non-inertial reference frame for the Coriolis effect?
do we all agree that the pendulum does not swing back and forth in a straight line? It kind of drifts, right? We all agree to that. It drifts.
I've seen videos where edited videos like what can I say unless I've did it myself, bro.
Depends
I've
on how
been
it's
like,
made.
But do we agree it drifts? Can we at least, as human beings talking to each other, can we agree it drifts?
people claim that it drifts. Like I've seen Fight the Flat Earth claim that it drifts, and I've seen what looks like it drifts on the paper because it's like ink that's constantly as the pendulum swinging. It's like marking ink on the paper on the ground.
Yeah, it's kind of
So you can
drifting a
see
little bit,
it,
right?
but like so. I mean, for all the validity, watching a YouTube video is. So go ahead with what you're going to say.
Well, but I just want to know if we can first agree that it drifts. It sounds like you're saying yes, we can agree that it drifts.
I don't know
Yes?
about all that. Sounds
I
like
don't know,
that
man.
by magnets when it's marking a pen on paper. How do you account for all that resistance
What resistance?
when you're drawing on paper? He said.
But is it not just dropping it on it with the swing? It's the momentum of it is making it pour out. So there's not like any friction involved. But I suppose there is liquid inside the ball or the pendulum.
Oh, so it gets lighter. Oh, I don't know.
I suppose that might
But let's
affect that if the ink's coming out, it's getting lighter. That might affect the drift slightly as well. So I don't know. I'd have to do it
but
myself.
let's just see if we can agree on what we see with our own eyes. Apparently, you guys have never seen one of these. I have been to one of these observatories, museums. Well, I don't know where this is, LA.
Well, I've seen them
And
on screen.
I watched one go. I sit there for like a half an hour and I could see it drifting.
Is that Coriolis effect?
That doesn't matter yet. I just need to agree that it's drifting first.
No,
Do you agree
that
it's
would be
drifting?
Coriolis. If it's drifting, that's Coriolis, is it not?
We're not there yet. Can we first
Well, we
agree that it
kind of are.
drifts? Does it drift?
Nah,
Yes
well,
or no?
I've seen it on TV, bro.
Okay, so you
want me to say
agree
yes?
that
I'll
it
say
drifts.
yes.
Wait, by
I've
drift,
seen.
do you mean that there's a magical force called gravity acting upon it?
No, that's not what he
No,
means.
I just mean drift.
Oh, you just mean like the inertia of the spinning Earth? That's what you mean?
That would be the non-inertia, and it would be in an inertial reference frame with respect to that. Just maybe let Spake do this.
No, I've not done. I've not done it myself. I don't want to put claims to this bullshit, man. I don't know.
But we can
No,
see.
but I've honestly never seen the pendulum experiment. To be honest, to be fully honest, I've never seen anybody prove that we're spinning by a pendulum. I don't even think that's even possible. To be honest, I don't even think that's logically possible.
Well, there's another thing called the Elias
That's a
effect, and
question.
people dispute it, but it's, you mean, you can like look it up, the Elias effect, and it's supposedly during eclipses these pendulums swing differently. Supposedly, I think it's
Oh, so there
Elias,
might.
Alias, I think.
Yeah. Oh, the Elias effect or something like
So,
that.
so would you also agree that this drift depends on the latitude?
I don't know, Rob. There's unknown variables in this that literally you could never know. So,
Well, but
like, it's
they
not
have
an
done this, right?
experiment where you're out in a college.
But this is an experiment people have done. Thousands of people have done it throughout
It's not an
history.
experiment, no, bro. It's
How's it
not an
not an
experiment.
experiment?
Bro, it's
Independent
not
variables
natural for
latitude.
starters.
Why does it have to be
It's a
natural?
man-made.
Why do experiments have to be
It's,
natural?
bro,
Should be
it's
based on a
natural science
natural
we're dealing
observed
with.
phenomenon. Like, what's the observed phenomenon in nature that we're trying to test for with this pendulum?
The swinging of the pendulum.
Yeah, but
Not a
where
thing in nature. You're
does
trying to
that happen
establish
in
the
nature?
rotation of the Earth in nature, right?
Not yet.
So in nature, you don't see swinging pendulums. So
Not yet, but he's about to. He's
There are
about
plenty
to.
of swinging. There are pendulums swinging in nature all the
So,
time.
bro, an
Anything swings
experiment,
back
you
and
need to
forth.
be able to
Pendulum.
see some. Sorry, bro. I'm saying you need to see something in reality, form your hypothesis, construct your experiment. Like, so what's swinging in reality that you're trying to recreate in this quote unquote experiment? Because it's not a scientific experiment, man.
It is exactly a scientific experiment. The independent variable is latitude. It's the only thing that changes in these experiments,
where do you
latitude.
see pendulums swinging in nature?
No. You're
Why do
trying
you
to
guys need it to
recreate
happen in
something.
nature?
Well, I can get you citations for how to construct an experiment. They're for MIT and whoever else. They're on 24/7 if you want. Or if you're a member there, just go to pinned messages in the live stream. There's fucking pages of it.
And who wrote that?
No, there's all these top supposed science authorities.
Okay, so do you
They're
suppose that the
hostile
people
witnesses for us, basically,
so,
like
so do
NASA.
do you suppose that the people who wrote that would agree that the Foucault's pendulum is an experiment?
It doesn't fall under the strict guidelines that I think has to be a scientific experiment, bro. Wait till I pour my tea.
Do you think the people who wrote that believe there are strict guidelines?
Just making my tea, bro. Yeah, I mean, like, how to construct an experiment as far as, I mean, I only found this shit out when I joined 24/7 and I started looking at all the citations that we're using that come from the globe side. Like the supposed acceleration and deceleration of the globe on the elliptical orbit, like constant turning. Like we can give you citations for all the claims that are made, if you want to call them claims. It's not us making them, man. But this contraption is definitely not a scientific experiment as far as I see the guidelines.
What do orbits have to do with scientific experiment with Foucault's pendulum?
No, I was trying to liken it to the citations we've got for shit like just like that. That like if you're saying that that's Earth's spin at only 1,000 miles per hour is affecting it, would the orbit of the Earth round the sun, with the 60,000 miles per hour that's supposedly doing, is that not going to affect the pendulum as well? Or one of these atomic clocks when they
The 1,000
supposedly
miles an hour
prove
only happens at the
time
equator.
dilation. Right, but that's also supposedly travelling at 60 odd thousand miles per hour around the sun. So surely that would affect it. If something like 1,000 miles per hour is affecting, and you're seeing results in this quote unquote experiment, then surely the 60 odd thousand that we're barreling through space and the 500,000 that the sun's dragging us, and then we're blown away from the Big Bang towards the Great Attractor, but none of that's affecting experience, let alone a fucking pendulum, bro. But I'm going to pour my tea.
Well, all we
And
have
yet
it for
with
an
all
independent variable is latitude, and we wouldn't really say that
yes,
latitude is the cause of the effect, would we?
we would actually.
So latitude
Ba-
is causing it to do that?
Based on everything we know about what a latitude is, yes. Based on the angle that it would be on the sphere, we can then predict the rate of precession. Yes.
Okay, so the underlying cause then, in your interpretation of all this, is rotation.
Yes.
So there must be two reference frames.
There must be two reference frames. Sure, I guess.
Does the atmosphere spin with the globe?
Yes.
Well, then whatever the pendulum is doing is not caused by Coriolis or rotation.
Why not?
Coriolis effect requires two reference frames.
Well, no one's ever saying it's done by Coriolis, right?
Which
Yes,
atmosphere
it is.
that I posted is the one it's spinning in?
It
I
has
posted
to be.
the atmosphere for you.
That's what it would be. If it's deviating because the Earth is rotating with respect to it, then that's Coriolis
These
effect.
are different forces, is what he's not
Yeah,
explaining. These are different forces that are affecting on different things.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Epsilon.
No, it is helpful because it's the truth. These are different forces
Yeah,
affecting
it's
different
very,
things.
very enlightening. Thank you.
Don't just use Coriolis and then grab it. Like, don't just use words. I don't know what to say, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, right. So take your own advice.
So what is Coriolis then, do you think it is?
That's an apparent deflection in an inertial reference frame observed from within a non-inertial reference frame.
And why does it happen?
Fictitious force. It's literally called fictitious.
Yeah, no, but why does it happen? What is it
Why
about a
does
sphere
the
that
non-thing not
does it
happen? Because it doesn't happen.
But people
Where's the
make
evidence?
cartoons
That's the
about it, and
point.
if they say it happens in a cartoon, therefore it happens in reality.
No,
And
it's
then
not a cartoon.
they say
What cartoon
sniper.
references Coriolis effect?
They say snipers have to correct for it, but any army people that we've had in here, and we've got AIs, ex-army. Don't know if he still is in the army, in fact, but like wind speed and like all the other factors, like they don't even. It's not even in the sniper's handbook supposedly. So all we've got is toilets flushed the wrong way, and what do you call it? Tornadoes.
No,
So I'm
So that would be affirming the
Spake. The
concept, I
only
would
thing that I
imagine.
was saying is that what they were talking about before, that the guy was referencing something that has to do with two different forces, and I was just correcting that. Coriolis effect has nothing to do with like just atmosphere. It's you can't just use these things interchangeably and think they mean the same thing. That's all I was trying to say.
I wasn't talking about what you said, bro. I was just making my own point, but
Just
I
putting
don't
it
think
out there.
Coriolis is a thing.
Well, it is a thing, just not with respect to the Earth. You can
Right,
have
but-
Coriolis with respect to a
Ocean.
merry-go-round.
Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah, if you
optical
chuck
trick
like
if you
four
want to
balls.
do it as a university with university students. That's a fun trick to do.
Are we like watching a little Dark Age edit?
I mean, you guys believe in flat Earth, so you guys are probably more close to the Dark Age than I would be. So maybe.
Well, the Dark Ages
believe in
weren't as
flat
dark
Earth,
as you think they were. There was advanced civilizations that
bro?
existed.
Sure.
Let's
That's why
analyze
they're
that.
called the Dark Ages. Why do you
the
think
Well,
they're
they're
called
Dark
the Dark
Ages
Ages?
because
Lack of
it's
history.
not revealed what was actually happening back then.
Yeah, lack of
false
recorded
pretend that
history.
it actually was.
Bro, the guy.
Hey, so
hold
why
it. The
are you
guy
trolling
says
right now? Because the Dark
listen,
Ages
bro,
as a term
bro,
has been disproven and no historian uses it anymore. That's
Yeah,
something
but
you
who
would find
cares?
it
See
from
the
a
guy.
book written before in the 90s even.
Listen,
Well,
see the
Lord
guy
came
that
out of
says we believe in flat Earth. Like we don't believe that the Earth is motionless. That's not a belief, bro. It's like your height. I'm 6 foot. That's not a belief. That's a measurement. So flat Earth's not a belief.
Yeah, flat Earth is measurable. Like you could, I could literally go out right now. I will never find a curve. I bet you. How much you want to bet? You want to bet $1 million or $1 billion? Because I'll
Okay, what are you
never.
gonna do?
I'll go in debt for the rest of my life just to show you that I'll never, even if I'm wrong. Because
You're trolling.
here's the thing. The thing
Tell us
is,
what experiment you're gonna do.
here's the thing. If I go out and I find a curvature throughout my whole entire the rest of my 70 years of existence,
Uh-huh.
then in that 70 years, if I find a curvature, then the Earth is obviously a globe. But if I don't
What is
find
what,
if I don't find the curvature at all, throughout my entire next 70 years of
Does
existence,
that mean you're
But the
10
thing is,
years
but the
old?
thing
This
is,
is
the
getting
thing
a
is.
pointless
So
conversation.
wait,
what experiment are you
Cheeto.
gonna do?
Hold on, Cheeto. You're a flat earther. What I would say to that though is that what happens is that the only way that you yourself would be able to experience this curvature is through using mathematics, which you also wouldn't, or a lot of flat earthers don't believe in because it's not.
Why?
You
What do you
can't see
mean?
it with your own
It's
eyes.
a straw
Why
man.
can't I
Fucking
just look
garbage.
at it?
No, that's what you guys do. You guys say, "Well, mathematics don't
That's
work."
not
They
right.
don't make sense.
You're
You
lying.
No, if
guys?
you're
You
gonna
mean
be
like
honest,
you
No,
guys?
flat
But
earthers.
not
No, flat
me?
earthers think that
Stop
mathematics
lying,
don't make
bro.
sense.
Right,
I'm
so
gonna just
why
put you
not
on mute.
prove it?
If you keep straw manning like that, I'm just muting you because
Why are you
nobody
He
lying,
has
said
bro?
nothing to offer.
Okay, correct me. I
Or
apologize for
or
lying.
present
Flat
some
Earthers all about
evidence.
flat
Present
Earth, huh?
if you've got mathematical evidence, if you class that as evidence, why not present some? I'm sure there'll be people
I
in the
mean, can
room
you?
wanting to go
We
through
can
something
find.
with you.
We can. I sent it yesterday. You can find the radius, and then there's also an equation to find how we
Who
can
Yeah, I
measure the
know. We know you
circumference.
can do math to
who
calculate
measured
these
it?
things. What
Yes.
measurements are those calculations based
Okay,
Who
I
on?
can
measured
show
it?
you. I can show you what those measurements are. It's the same measurements
Yeah,
that
okay,
allowed us
show
to
us those.
Who?
find
That's the only thing
Neptune.
we're asking about. That's
Okay,
the
how
only
do
thing we're
we? Okay,
asking about.
guys, for flat earthers, how did we find Neptune, or is Neptune not a real
Okay,
planet
he's
to you?
already off on another tangent.
Yeah, he's spurged out.
Okay, let me go back to what you're saying then.
Is
It's
Neptune
just I don't
Earth?
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Just go
so
back to
on
what you're
Earth,
saying.
but that's what I'm saying. We found
We'll stick to
Neptune
the
through
Earth, bro.
mathematics, and you guys don't believe in mathematics, so it's
No, we don't.
useless.
Who?
Okay, this guy's insane,
Yeah,
dude. The
he lost.
measurements
That's
that
mine.
the radius calculations are based on. What are they? Can you answer that?
He lost the plot. We showed him yesterday or a couple days ago that Galileo discovered Neptune.
That's not.
It doesn't matter anyway. It's a complete
Galileo did not.
obfuscation from the question he was just asked. What measurements were these radius calculations based on? He starts talking about Neptune. Like, dude.
Okay, what they were based on are. So you're saying it is mathematics, and you're
Oh
trying to.
my God.
You're okay. Hold on. You're
Who,
asking me. You're
My
asking me how did.
God.
who
I'll say it
measured?
again.
Where
I'll
did you
say it
get the
again.
numbers from?
Yes. What measurements did we get those numbers from? Please respond to that.
Okay, so the way that we were able to come up with something called a radius is because we started with something
Holy
called
fuck,
arithmetic, and then we were able
bro.
to.
Nah, you're not the one. Let's move on.
He's talking at his fucking arse.
Yeah, here's the best part. Like, he could go to astronomylive.com magazine. They have an article published by Joe Davis. Who discovered Neptune? The story of Neptune serves as a prime example. Neptune's something he lost the plot. He doesn't even know the narrative that he's preaching.
It's
Someone
irrelevant,
coming
though,
in
right?
here and talking about, oh, I want to tell you about this new religion. A guy walked on water and turned loaves of fish and bread. And you're like, oh, sure, what did he say? Or where did he live? Or you start asking some very basic questions about the story, and they don't know anything about it at all. Like, nothing. Like, you can really get better answers from this guy on just my basic knowledge of the heliocentric model. His information is misinformation. He's pushing misinformation.
So, Cret, how do human beings measure large things?
Like, what's your definition of large?
Mountains, for example. How do we know? How do we know the elevation of a
That's
mountain?
what she
Well, the
said.
way I measure my penis is from the crack.
It's always
All right.
you guys. It always goes back to Dick. You notice this, right?
From the gooch.
It wasn't
Yeah.
for me.
For the
I
globalists,
asked you
they
a
always
question.
go back to it.
How do we measure large things like mountains?
Like, measure it how? Measure it as in his height?
Dude, yes, elevation. We're two
Okay.
human beings, you and me, and we're sitting around together, you and me, and we're saying, how do we figure out how tall that mountain is? What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, there's depends
I'll
on your
tell you
method.
I'll tell you the very first thing you're gonna do is observe a mountain.
Okay, and then what do we do? What's the next thing we do?
Well, can we get that far with the globe is what I'm gonna get at.
Yeah, you go steps. Yeah.
Can we
Like,
observe
Okay, so
this globe that we want to measure? Yeah, you're gonna do an angle measurement, but can we do step 1 for the globe?
it's bigger than a mountain, so we have to break it into smaller pieces.
Can we observe an arc segment?
Yes, we can observe. We can observe the curve. We can observe small pieces adding up to the curve. Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, have you heard of Brian Cox?
No.
All right, he's like kind of like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of England.
Neil deGrasse Tyson in England.
Yeah, I used to think I used to call him the Bill Nye of England.
Well, I mean, he was just going to tell us where he observes an arc segment. That would have been interesting.
Why did you go away from the simple question? You and I standing there, we want to measure how high an elevation a mountain is. What do we do?
Yeah,
don't run away from this.
Observe
First thing you
Don't
do
go
is
too low.
observe a mountain to know that there is one to get the height of. So
And then what's the second step? Why do you guys never want to go to at least the
I already
second
told you
step?
you're going to do an angle measurement. You're going to use an
Okay.
elevation angle.
And what does that consist of?
There you go, Scott. Here's Cox explaining to you how do you know the Earth is a globe. Everyone knows, right? Everyone knows the Earth is round, but how do you know it? He'll tell you how you know it. You know it because you believe somebody told you, and you believe the story. You believe them. I don't. I don't believe them.
Yes, but what we do is, for the mountain, right? As someone just said, we take an angle of elevation, right? But what are we doing that? We're using optics, right? We're not dropping a line. We're not, constructing a straight beam going to the top of this mountain. We're looking through an instrument that we can measure the angle of elevation, right? So we're trusting optics in this situation, correct?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why you went away from the optics of the curve that you're going to be getting measurements for, though.
But we are trusting the optics in this
Well,
situation.
you're talking about how we derive the height of a mountain, and nobody asked anything about that, right? So, we went step one. All right, you observe a mountain. You know that there is one to get a height of. So I'm just wondering where you observe this globe or arc segment thereof, so that we can begin doing the same process with that.
Well, what I was going to ask is, if we trust the optics in order to give us an elevation of a mountain, do we trust the optics in order to give us the angle to any other object? So from mountaintop to mountaintop, for example, do we trust the optic to give us those angles?
So it doesn't sound like we actually observe a globe or an arc segment anywhere to calculate the dimensions of. Because you just keep talking about mountains, which I do know we definitely observe, and they do exist. So we at least know that there is something tangible there that we could try to work out the dimensions of. But that's all you want to talk about. You don't
Why
want
do
to
you guys
talk
want
about
to
where you
run
actually
away?
observe this globe. Well, you're the one running away, because what we're trying to get
I'm
to
trying to get you
is how
there.
this radius was derived, right? So you're relating it to a mountain. We know that there is a mountain to get the height of, right? So how do we know that there is a globe to get a radius of? You keep running from that and then flipping it onto us like we're the ones running.
I'm about to tell
Math.
you.
He's afraid of the math.
But I need to have it on every step. We can look at maps, take the angle elevation for each one to each one, right? Reciprocal angles. And we can look at the measurements and we can assume that if those plumb lines from which we took each respective angle of elevation were parallel.
Oh, why would they be?
If the Earth were flat, they would be, right?
Oh, right. So plumb lines. Wait, so plumb lines are you saying that plumb lines are
straight? Yeah.
Okay, so the Earth's definitely not a globe then, right?
Why would a plumb line
Well,
have anything
are
to
you
do
arguing for a
with
perfect
the Earth?
sphere, Mr. Scott Mackay? Is that what you think the Earth is?
Oh man.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if you've looked at what
Why?
these geodetic surveyors that you keep invoking came up with, but they
Yes.
definitely don't say that this potato Earth thing that you think that they found out we live on has straight plumb lines. Don't know if you knew that or not.
No, they definitely say they have straight plumb lines.
No, they definitely don't. You're definitely out of your depth. They curve and they deflect every which way because the
plumb lines
mass of the
curve?
geoid, the potato Earth thing that you think. No, I don't think they do. But in your
No,
religion, they do.
don't say it either.
So if the Earth has straight plumb lines, like you just said, they did. You already defeated the thing that you're trying to prove.
Yeah, that clearly shows you don't understand what they said. You read something and misunderstood Understood.
Well, what is that I misunderstood? Tell me.
That's
Tell
what I'm
me.
trying to help you
Tell
with.
me
The
what I
fact
read
that
and
you think
misunderstood.
that
Tell me what I read and misunderstood.
you said geodetic surveyors claim that plumb lines are curved. No,
Yeah,
they
they
don't.
do. Yeah, they
No, they
do.
don't. Show
Yeah,
me.
they do. Do you think it's a perfect sphere?
It doesn't matter. They're not
No, it
curved.
does matter because the
Why?
density distribution of the potato Earth thing that you think you live on warps the equipotential of gravity. So then the plumb lines are curved every which way, depending on that
No.
equipotential.
What,
Yes.
what do you mean by
Yes.
curved? What do you mean by curved?
It means that the plumb lines are deflected. They're not a straight line like you said they were. They're wavy.
How do they
And they're
determine
randomly
how do they
wavy too, so
determine
they
plumb
never would
lines
be
are
parallel.
wavy?
They never would be parallel.
Oh, you don't understand anything you're talking about. It's
Oh,
interesting.
really? Tell me where I
Yeah.
got wrong. Yeah, tell me what I got wrong.
Do you got that image?
How would a geodetic
Yeah, I
survey
do have it.
possibly
Okay.
It's
determine
memes
that a plumb
geodetic
line is
forward grid
wavy?
on the other server if you want to grab it.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
how would they determine that a plumb line is wavy? What'd they do to
The
determine that?
mathematical consequence of having a potato Earth with unevenly distributed mass all over it. Remember that part? You
Yes,
don't think
but
it's
that just
perfectly distributed mass everywhere, do you? So then why would a plumb line be straight down to the center of this thing? The barycenter of it isn't even at the perfect center, which it would have to be for all these plumb lines to be straight and radial like you're imagining them.
well, whether it's pointing to the geometric center is irrelevant because that has nothing to do with whether it's wavy or not. You said they're wavy.
Yeah, because it's perpendicular to the equipotential of gravity, which itself is wavy. Of course,
How
this
does
is
that?
just in your fairy tale. I'm not saying
How
this
does?
actually happens, but this is what
How
you
does?
have to believe.
What do you mean by wavy?
Wavy?
Yes.
I don't know. Go Google that word.
A wavy is going back and forth, a single line going back
Yeah,
and forth, right?
yeah, go like that. Yeah,
How do they determine that a single line, a plumb line, goes back and forth?
because the equipotential of gravity is itself wavy. That would be the horizontal vector, or I mean the horizontal. Yeah, and the plumb lines have to be
Oh,
perpendicular to that at all points. So everything is deflected and wavy every which way.
oh man.
They're not straight. So as soon as you say they're straight, you already defeated the paradigm you're trying to argue for.
Yeah, it's your story,
No.
man, not ours.
Yeah,
Well,
but
you
you
can
don't
say
understand.
nuh-uh, but
But you
I
don't
mean,
understand our story, which is
I do.
why.
You
No,
don't.
you don't.
I'm telling it to you. You're refusing to take it in. So it's clear that it's you who doesn't
So,
understand and
so,
are
so,
projecting.
The
so
image is
do you think?
coming in a
So
second.
do
Okay.
you think if we got these
Scott,
geodetic
listen.
surveyors in the room with, they'd agree with me or they'd agree with you?
Well, I'll
Hey,
just post their own citations if they disagree with me, and then they'd be disagreeing with themselves.
we got the image incoming right now. Okay, so we're gonna look at
And
to see what your definition of these words are,
and
and
so there's
it'll
no
show you why
possibility
you've been
that you
disqualified.
misunderstood what they said.
Yeah, we'll go
No,
through
I
it.
didn't. No, I didn't.
How do you know that?
Equipotential surfaces that gravity forms are themselves undulating and waving due to the random and uneven distribution of mass, which then bends the plumb line. Told you this I don't know how many times. They say it has to be perpendicular to that wavy equipotential surface of gravity everywhere at all points. So it's
How does
deflected
bending?
every which way.
All
It's
right, here
not
it
a
is.
straight line.
Yes, it could be deflecting in a straight line.
Now
Why
mix
don't you
that in with
understand
your
that?
bendy line of sight. Now
There it
mix
is.
that in with your bendy line of sight, man. You've got nothing.
There it is. Read this. Read and weep. Figure
Interesting
4.1.
Yeah, so as soon as you said straight plumb line, it was over. Sorry.
Yeah, you done. You destroyed your model. Can't measure mountains
Yeah,
anymore.
Straight, straight plumb line that's bendy with a perpendicular that's the curved, right? Like fuck me,
because you
man.
get.
You're all
That's
over the
just because
place.
you guys don't understand our model.
Yeah, it
And
says
it's
right
very
here
clear.
because of
Okay.
Earth's gravity field, the plumb
Okay, we
line
don't
is
understand it.
not.
We've just been teaching him his so-called model for the past few minutes. So why don't you read what I
But you haven't.
posted about your or what Crip posted there about your model, and you can better understand it for us. How about that?
I already understand that. I don't need to read your
Okay,
stuff.
okay, give it to us then. Tell us what we misunderstood about that.
That deflection does not necessarily mean a wavy line. It's just a deflection of
Well,
a straight line.
look at the plumb line they're showing there. And did you read what it says about why it does that? which it doesn't, but this is just a mathematical consequence of the
Let me get up and go look at this thing. What are we looking at? I was laying on
Yeah,
the
that
floor,
plumb line.
stretching out my back. What are you looking at?
That plumb line is straight, you think?
What am I looking? Oh, do I have crit blocked for some? Yes, I do.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Dude, you were spamming on gems at one time, and so I blocked you.
That's a
So
different.
I found it now. Well, it happens. It's universal, right? It carries over from server to server. You don't have to block a person on different servers.
Mm.
There,
Just the
I
way
DM'd
Discord
it to you,
works.
so you have it later.
No, I got it. So what are we looking at here? As shown, the plumb line is not a straight line. Rather, it is site, but curvature and relies on gravity in two ways. Firstly, the curve starts. Okay, so this says if you move the plumb line from point to point, if you move your theodolite or your auto level, it's going to have a different plumb line. But in
Yeah.
all cases, that plumb line is going to be straight.
Not if you're on. No, not if you're on with the globe religion. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I don't really think that plumb lines do this, but in the globe paradigm, that's what they have to do.
You just don't understand what we mean when we say straight, and that's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, I think what you
Yeah, we
mean is
do.
not
We
straight
do.
because yeah,
You
going
don't.
by
Yeah,
this. Well, what do you think straight
exactly.
means?
You take a theodolite or an auto level and you put it somewhere, you're going to get a plumb line, right? Period.
A plumb line, yeah.
You're going to get a vertical if you put something somewhere, right?
Sure.
That's all we're saying.
Okay.
Isn't a vertical so it
Perpendicular to horizontal?
perpendicular to horizontal?
Well, horizontal is defined as perpendicular to plumb. That's how we define horizontal.
So is plumb a
Horizontal's
wavy
defined.
curved line?
No, a plumb is a direction from any point on which at which you're standing. That's what we mean when we say the word.
Will that direction form a wavy plumb line?
No, that direction is just a singular direction. A thing can only be pointing in one direction.
Yeah, okay, but if you drop a plumb line, then is it going to be wavy because of what plumb is at every point along that line?
No.
Okay, there's no globe then. Unless you want to argue for a perfect sphere, that's your only way out of that one.
Yeah. You just don't understand what we're saying.
Well, you
Too
keep
bad.
saying that, and then you keep not proving it.
The thing is that he's projecting himself as a character into a cartoon and speaking to you from the cartoon. And he said, look, in this cartoon, plumb lines are pointing towards the center of a sphere or the circle in the cartoon. And therefore, we live in a cartoon. I mean, in the sphere that it comes from the cartoon. So yeah, that's what he's doing. He's a character and
What I'm
speaking from
telling
there.
you is that people have went out and measured from mountaintop to mountaintop using plumb as vertical, and they can take the angle to the other mountaintop, and they go to that second mountaintop, and they go back to and they take the angle to the first mountaintop, and they can look at those angles, and the corresponding interior angles should equal 180, and they never do. They're always more than 180.
Why should they? You have to believe in curvy, wavy plumb lines. If that's the case, then why are you assuming them to be straight and that they should amount to 180?
Because that's what we mean when we say that. And if you don't
Okay.
understand that, you don't understand our model.
I do, and I've been teaching it to you for like 10 minutes, and you still don't understand it for some reason, but okay.
He just said it. He goes into the model, the cartoon, and speak from there.
I mean,
you guys need to come up with an explanation of why they're not 180 degrees.
well,
'Cause
listen, this
if they're a flat
expecting
Earth, it would
180
be.
thing, though, it already defeated your paradigm because you're expecting 180 based on the assumption that the plumb lines are straight, which they wouldn't have been if your globe were a reality. So, what are you going to do here? Get it together.
So do you think that plumb lines all point in the same direction?
No matter where you go, a plumb line's parallel?
I think vertical is always perpendicular to horizontal, and all verticals are parallel.
So you think all verticals are parallel to each other, right?
Yeah, by
And
definition.
so then if you pointed a measuring device, a theodolite, for example, at two different points pointing at each other, you should get 180 degrees. It's just simple geometry. It's ninth grade geometry, parallel lines and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you never add up
Right.
to a sphere. Never ever in reality. You can never add all those points, all of those lines, and oh, there you go, a sphere with it, right? You do that.
Actually, we can and we do. That's the fun thing about
You
math.
assume they're parallel when you're measuring the heights of mountains.
No, we don't.
Yeah, you do. You need a horizontal plane.
No, we
Yeah,
don't.
so all the verticals would have to be parallel relative to that horizontal plane.
Yeah, you do. You don't
Well,
get elevation angles without the horizontal plane.
And you don't understand our model.
Well, unless you have well, we do. We've been trying to teach it to you for a little while now, and you still don't understand it, but keep projecting. You don't have straight plumb lines within your quote model. So every
Yes, we
time you
do.
invoke them, you wreck yourself. I've been trying to
Yes,
help
we
you,
do.
but you're just not helping yourself.
Your misunderstanding of our model is not the same
Yeah,
as our
you
model.
keep saying I'm misunderstanding it, then having absolutely no idea what that misunderstanding is.
I know
Right,
exactly
it's
what
just
it
an
is.
ad hom.
Yeah, it is.
No,
Tell
you
tell
guys,
tell us what specifically has
you're
been
getting the problem
misunderstood,
wrong.
because I've given it to you now in thorough detail why you can't really invoke a straight plumb line and maintain any coherency when you're arguing for the globe. And you just keep saying "nuh-uh" and then not being able to elaborate.
Well, I can elaborate to anybody who can understand simple
Yeah,
physics
that's a
and
nice excuse, but you're still not elaborating.
Another ad hom.
what do you want me to
You
do, man?
can't elaborate though. That's the best part. Because even if the messenger doesn't understand it, you'd still be able to articulate. This is where say a little bit of science will save you. Because what you're doing here is say if the listener can't understand you, you can't talk. You are the dependent variable of the listener. You
And
should be
then
able to talk in an empty room and still be
when
able to do so.
when he wants to
Let me-
burden reverse after making the exact wrong assumptions within his paradigm about why the plumb lines appear to do this or that, like, why don't you just bring us the evidence that they're actually deflected in reality, and then account for that and show us how you did it, assuming that they're
account
just
for
straight
what?
lines. The deflection of the plumb line that you would have to account for, because how do you know that you're not just looking at that? And then the optics that you're looking through too, that you always use to throw away the stuff that we show you. So, I mean, you're making assumptions based in ideal geometry, which go out the window when we show you something that doesn't match your assumptions. But
And
then
so you
suddenly
guys,
we're right back to ideal geometry, and optics are out the window when you're making the
no, we're not.
okay.
That's why the people who do this take multiple measurements from each location, because they know all these factors and they need to, when they take the average and they get a good estimate of how big the Earth
Oh,
is,
I
and they get a good estimate.
see.
That's how we
Whoa.
do things.
Right.
Now
That's
we're
how we do
getting
things.
somewhere. So it's
Yes.
not a precise. It's an average.
Nobody
Do you
ever
think
claimed it was exact.
Do you think they
Duh.
throw out maybe like ones that are too far outside the average? Do they toss those out like ones that if you just weighted the averages a little bit differently, you'd get a result that equals flat Earth? Like
No,
where a triangle equals
no,
180
no,
degrees?
no, they wouldn't.
Off by just a hair. Like
No.
like instead of a triangle being 180 degrees, it's 180.01. And you think they couldn't just weight the averages a little bit more to make that triangle just 180 degrees?
No. Just no. That's not how they do their
Nuh-uh.
work.
Just nuh-uh.
Well, you can go do it yourself anytime you want, man.
Yeah, I have. A triangle equals 180 degrees.
That's what I wanted to bring up. So, what did it actually equal if it's more than that?
What's that?
What did that triangle equal that you were talking about?
I wasn't talking about a triangle just now. I was talking about 2 points. Doesn't make a triangle. Just makes parallel lines with a transverse line through it.
That's an ideal
No.
geometry. Are we forgetting about optics again?
No, you forgot the point you're at. You and 2 points. That's 3 total.
Yeah, but the only question we're trying to figure out is, are these two plumb lines parallel?
And they're not.
They are not parallel, I agree. They never are.
Because they're wavy lines.
They're not wavy lines. They're pointing towards the common center. A center of mass. They're both pointing to a center of mass.
Still a
How did
perfect
you like
sphere.
brain fart this? You could see it, the image, and they explain it in plain text. Like
Yeah.
they explain it in
you
your
know.
reading level. This is
Well,
your
Listen,
level of
Scott,
reading.
Scott, you are
Yes,
just denying your own religion now, dude.
but they didn't dumb it down enough, apparently.
Well, they
Anti-flat
did for
earther.
me. I mean, I was able to explain it to you like 15 times, but I don't know what your problem is.
You were able to misexplain it 15 times.
Okay, what
yes,
was
I
the
heard that.
misexplanation?
The line doesn't curve. I don't know why
It
it's so hard for you
does.
to
Look at
grasp.
the picture and then read the explanation. Well, it would, I should say. I'll correct myself to it would, because I don't think it actually does. But that's what it has to do in your paradigm.
Yeah, a real plumb line doesn't. Globe plumb lines do. They do. So this would be a contradiction.
What do you think a theodolite or an auto level measures? A real plumb line or this other thing you guys are talking about?
Real.
Okay, so we get a plumb line
Engineering.
from a device,
That's
right?
engineering instead of just a mathematical model that doesn't work.
And do engineers use mathematics?
I mean, they can. They don't need to, but yeah. The
You
first
show
engineers.
me an engineering problem that doesn't use mathematics.
Yeah, because you'd say, "Oh, I set it up this way. I watched it function. Oh, it failed here. I'm going to just tweak this screw a little bit. Bang, it works."
That's not engineering.
Yeah.
That's tinkering.
Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not
They
the
have to
same
use
thing.
they have to use straight line. They have to assume straight lines to then extrapolate from that curvy lines, which then contradicts their. It's counterproductive to their claim. I mean, it's
Why is
just
it
fucking
counterproductive?
ridiculous.
Well, he
Why is
told
a
you. I
straight
told
line?
you. Everybody's told you because they're not straight on the globe that you're arguing for. The potato Earth, I should say, because globe sounds just too spherical.
So, do you guys accept that when they take these measuring devices, they get more than 180 degrees in corresponding interior angles?
No, it's not a triangle then.
Yeah, triangle.
And I never said it was a triangle.
Oh, then doesn't mean anything, right?
It's two lines, two plumb lines, with the transverse being the line going between the 2 points, and those corresponding interior angles between those two parallels should be 180 if those things were parallel. It's a theorem they prove in geometry in 9th grade.
Why are you expecting them to be parallel? We already told you that if the globe tard that you think this proves is real, that they won't be parallel. That's why it's a nonsense test for you to try to use.
Well, we know they're not parallel. They're pointing towards a common center
Why
of mass.
would they be? They're wavy. They're
There's a
deflected
difference in the
randomly.
magnitude of the effect, right? The effect, you are completely correct that the plumb lines on globe Earth are not straight because the density of Earth is not homogeneous.
There we
However,
go.
There you go.
However, the globe model also
one
predicts.
sec, real quick.
Let me finish. The globe
Wait,
model
no, stop
also
right there.
predicts.
This is a critical.
The globe model
I'll
also
let you
predicts
go,
the
but just 1
magnitude
second.
of the effect, and that is
Okay, I'll
much
let-
smaller than the
Bulldoze
predicted
right through you.
effect
Yeah, okay,
from
quiet.
the
I'm going to
deviation in the
respond
angle.
to all of that in just a sec. You're not going to take over the room. But now that he said it, Scott, do you understand?
No, I think if he gave me 2 minutes to talk to him, I think we can reach a common agreement on what we mean.
Well, I mean, he summed it right up. He said, yes, the distribution of mass
Why
is
don't we test
uneven.
this?
So, yes, the plumb lines do curve. Then he went into the magnitude of it.
Why
It's
don't we
not
test this?
enough. It's not enough. How does he know that? Do you know how much the deflections are supposed to be on the potato Earth?
Why
Either
don't
one of
we
you?
test my hypothesis and see if I can talk to him for 2 minutes and see if he and I can reach an agreement?
Fine.
Hey, Exonaut.
Yo.
Would you agree with me that the plumb line taken from any given point is considered to be a straight line?
No, it's a vector local to a point.
It's a vector.
essentially
It's
a
a
vector
vector.
field.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
but in a
it's a
vector
vector.
field, that's not a line. It's like a
Okay,
direction
sure.
relating to a point.
Okay, so it's a direction, right? And the direction is straight. Directions are always straight, right? If it's a vector.
Well, I mean, again, it's just a direction from a point. There's no line here.
Yes. Okay. So we agree. I can agree with what Exonaut's saying. Yes, it's a vector. That's the
Okay.
better term for it. It's a vector.
Okay. Okay.
See?
And those vectors.
Less than 2 minutes and we agreed.
Okay. And when those vectors form a
Conceded
line,
that you were
that'll be a
wrong.
wavy line, right?
Well, he was using a more precise term. I should have been using vector all along.
Okay. But the plumb line itself will be wavy because of those vectors, right?
No, each thing only has one vector. Each point has one vector.
Okay, you drop the plumb line, right? It's going to be wavy, right?
No.
Well,
It's
you
going
want
to
to
have
try
a
again,
single,
Exonaut?
it's going to have a single vector.
Does the vector
Each
change?
point, right? So when those points are put together into a line, is it curved or straight?
No, a vector doesn't have points. A vector is one point.
Oh my God.
It's just, if you take basic physics, you understand this stuff.
Yeah,
Are we
I know. We're
talking
trying
about
to
a
get.
vector?
We're trying to connect the points to a line. I'm asking you if they're going to be curved or straight.
There's no reason to
Is this
try
about
to connect
averages
the points
again?
to a line.
This is about averages again, isn't it?
Like, I mean, does he actually not know what's being asked? Maybe the Exonaut guy needs to say it to him again.
There's simply no reason to try to connect the points to a line. A vector is what it is. It's got a direction and a magnitude. It's real simple. It has one direction and one magnitude.
Okay, if there's no need to connect them, then why did you start by saying yes, 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 plumb lines are straight?
Uh-oh.
Because a plumb line is a vector.
It's a line.
It's not. It's a vector.
Vector is a point, you just said. Can you define line? I think you're going to need at least 2 points.
No, you don't.
Wow.
You don't.
So he just
For a
threw away
line?
the core of the Earth. The center of the Earth is gone.
You
Doesn't
don't need
exist.
at least 2 points for a line.
No, you just need the slope of the line.
Yeah, the line segment.
You need a point and a slope is all you need.
Exonaut also did kind of want to address what I was saying, which was that the magnitude of the deflection isn't enough to matter here.
Well, I'll let Exonaut take over. Go ahead,
How
Exo.
much is the deflection?
Well, we can actually calculate it if you want, but that's going to take a little bit of time. But
Well, you should
we know-
calculate it. You should calculate it before you say it's not enough to affect what we're trying to measure.
I mean, I've used these types of models before. They account for things like the density of Earth as measured by, gravity. Like people have measured the gravitational constant across the
Show it.
surface, and
Show it.
and
So-
that creates a model from which we can say, well, the globe model doesn't only say they're going to be curved, but it also predicts they're going to be curving, not more than this amount to the inhomogeneity of materials in Earth.
That's
and then
really
you can
specific.
account for that, and it
I
does
asked you
make
what
sense.
that amount would be because you've made the claim that it's not enough to affect the measurement, right?
I mean, it depends. Depends on
You've
where
made
you
the
are.
claim that it's not enough to have any effect on what you're claiming to measure, right? So
Okay.
you would have to know
I
how
don't
much
think.
how much
Okay,
that deflection
we'll
is gonna
calculate
be
it.
in order to square that.
We can calculate it. Hold on.
Well, you should do that first, just before saying, "Well, it's not enough to affect anything."
Well, I mean, it is like this is a thing that physicists often do. It's like orders of magnitude difference. When there's a difference of
Is it?
like 4 or 5 orders of magnitude, I don't need to calculate the precise amount. Like it doesn't matter for the argument.
Really? Okay, you don't know what the numbers are, but you know that they're out by magnitudes.
Yeah, like that's an estimation.
Okay, you're just talking out of your ass.
Yeah, that sounds like
never
a
done that?
disqual. It sounds like a disqualify to me.
So, when these plumb lines are supposed to be diverging, right? What is the angle measurement there? What scale are you measuring in? Arc seconds, arc minutes? How much deflection are we looking at?
So what does flat Earth say? So we agree though they might diverge, right? You say, well, okay, it could also be due to the, the curve.
You're going to be measuring a deviation of. Listen, you didn't answer the question at all. You're going to be measuring a deviation. You're going to be
does
measuring
flat
a
Earth
deviation
explain that deviation at all? In flat Earth, there shouldn't be no deviation whatsoever. Not due to plumb lines being curved, and not due to there being a sphere. Neither.
Oh, maybe they do deflect, or maybe it's optics. I don't know.
Okay, but like your model says there should be no deflection at all. We see deflection.
No, I didn't claim a model, and you're straw manning, and I've asked you questions that you've just steamrolled right over, which is, what is the deflection that you're actually measuring? How much? And what scale are you measuring deflections? I think it's just going to be arc seconds, right?
The units? Why do you
Yeah,
care about the
they're
units?
magnitudes apart, so give the magnitudes for each, the deflection and the amount of divergence that you say that you're picking up from tilt.
What locations and how far exactly are you apart?
Oh, God.
What? Yeah, they're going.
Okay, you have a reciprocal zenith measurement that you can show us. All right. Pretty sure they're just measuring in arc seconds there. Pretty sure that their plumb lines have to deflect up to an arc minute sometimes, they say in these textbooks. So I just wanted to expose that he was full of shit there, but he stonewalled me.
He dipped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does that. He's as a guy I'm thinking of, it's like some sort of a futuristic space helmet as his profile pic.
They say that the deflections can be up to 70 arc seconds. How much tilt do they think that they're actually, quote, measuring with these tests?
Well outside the margin of error. Well
Yeah,
outside.
I think so. He said magnitudes apart. So these guys just show up and say things. That seems to be the strategy.
At least they're entertaining.
Well, it's funny how they can't even begin to perform any of what they're claiming without assuming a horizontal plane in the first instance.
Well, we saw proof of what they do yesterday. There was almost nobody online that would defend the views that you guys espouse. And so there was a guy just trying to hassle the one person in here that was trying. And then he's like, I'm going to make a video, show all the flat earthers know nothing. And then I was talking to him in a voice, and he's like, I'm going to put you in the video because you're a flat earther. And I'm like, bro, now you're just making up stuff.
Well, it always turns into a burden reversal, too. Well, explain this. Well, this was your claim, and you made faulty assumptions that don't fit the paradigm you're arguing for. Oh, that's dishonest to say so. Well, no, it's dishonest for you to try to pass off like straight plumb lines when they're supposed to be curved.
Well, but see, here's the thing. We provide this information to each other, and we make this world work. And we're satisfied with it for the most part. And now we're curious why you guys are not satisfied with all the work we've done.
Who's we?
What part of we is you?
Identify this we?
Human race. Yeah.
The whole human race.
Yeah.
All of it.
You had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, there is no we.
Don't you claim atheist?
Yes, I happen to be an atheist, but it has nothing to do with this.
If you follow logic, the human race believes in some version of a creator. You are outside of that.
Correct.
Okay, so you can't really claim a we.
Okay, if that made sense to you, then
Oh, okay. So you get to shame people because they're not part of the majority for one belief, but another one they're doing the same to you. You decide to just wave it off, and you think that's a valid form of argumentation. You just get to insult
not at
people.
all.
Why
No,
don't you
not
go
at all.
back to the high school playground and go fight the bullies there and have fun?
See, Scott, this is a problem you have, is that you live in America and you appeal to the government The government doesn't appeal to government. The government appeals to God. You say atheist. Then they tell you, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal,
They're
endowed by
not
their creator.
religious, bro. They're not religious at all. Don't play.
So if you're not part of the we, how are you claiming you're part of the we if you're not part of the we? You can't have it both ways. You can't be a we and not a we at the same we. And even if it fits,
What does
say,
it even mean? What does it even mean?
yeah, are
What
you
do I
part of the we?
what do I need to be part of the we, according to
Because
your
you
definition of
identified.
we?
I didn't self-identify as a we. I identified as an I, a crit. You
Okay, what do I?
self-identified as part of a collective.
Okay, so what part of the what do I need to be a part of the collective in your vision?
I would say to be part of the collective, you'd have to have every 51% or more idea. Every idea
So
that's 51% or more to be part of the largest group of we's. You'd have to go through every possible topic, every possible thing, and to make sure you are part of the we of the human race, you'd have to be every one of those boxes, like a fair weather fan, if you will.
Do you know how insane that sounds?
Why I'm asking you, why would you do that? Why would you be that insane to identify as a collective we and never even explain who this we is, other than to say all of humanity? You just identify as all of humanity. When you know there are identities that you have that put you outside the majority.
What does my identity have to do with anything?
Because it's no longer we.
We're human beings, right?
Yeah, and the humans have a certain set of beliefs, methods, and practices that
What
you
does that
don't
matter?
partake
We're
in.
still we. We're still all human beings, right? That makes us a we.
Then you have to throw away your atheism.
I don't depend on atheists. It's part of being a human being makes us a we.
And if
That's
you
the only thing
ask
that
the
matters.
majority of people who make the
If they're
country
human
work,
beings,
who make the world work, they all identify with a creator. I'm sure there's probably more identities that you're in the
who
minority of.
cares? They're all human beings, right?
Yeah, and your qualifier was not only do they have to be human beings, they also have to be in charge of stuff and make the world work.
I never
Two
said
more
that.
qualifiers. Yeah, you did. You said because
No.
the problem you have with flat earthers is they deny all the work we have done.
Yeah, you guys are included in the we.
So I can deny the work that I've done myself. Wow. See how this is what this topic is so powerful. Once you boil it down to logical syllogism, it's deeply contradictory. It's so contradictory. You get some P and not P, be going the same. I'm a we who also denies a we.
No, you are a person who denies the work of other human beings.
Which I did.
Yeah, and why would you do that?
That's what you've been doing, Scott.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I've denied my own work.
yeah.
So I did something, and I denied that I did that. That I didn't
No,
even
you
know.
didn't.
I said, even though I told you, expert, from my point of view, as an expert in me, I had no part of a Nixon era space race. And you'll tell me, yes, you did. I go, no, Scott, I'm telling you right now, 100%, I was not involved with that whatsoever. He says, but you're part of a we. I go, can you define this we? He's like, certainly. This we is all the people who are in charge who make the stuff work. And I'm like, okay, so not me. He goes, yes, you. Come on, man. You got, like, what are you doing right now? How can your logic be this bad? And it's just because of this topic. If we switched other topics, you'd be able to form some sort of logical syllogism. But because the topic is around, or periphery around the flat earth, somehow you just shit your brains out and you just do schizophrenic babbling, to coin your phrase.
So, Crit, do you think if we got 100 people in a room and they listen to you and they listen to me, which one of us do you think they would think is schizophrenic?
You.
I mean, you did say
They're
that you
defined
didn't
as
need
a
to-
we.
I mean, Scott is on the record here saying you don't need 2 points for a line, for God's sake.
Scott,
I
how
didn't
about
say
this?
that.
We walk
I said
into
you
a
don't need 2
room,
points for a
right?
Yes, you
vector.
did.
How about
You
this?
don't
We
need,
we
you don't
walk
need
into a
points
room,
for a
okay, a
vector.
room of 10 people. They ask us, "Hey, Crit, what is your favorite color?" And I say, "My favorite color is purple." And they ask you, "Hey, Scott, what color is your favorite color?" You said, "We favorite color blue."
I would never say that though.
Yeah, because you identify as a we, motherfucker. Shit, what the hell's wrong with you?
I'm sorry that English is so difficult for you.
Do you identify as an individual or as a collective? Which one? Are you a person or collective?
I'm a person, yes.
Okay,
but
so
I am part of a collective.
Okay, you're part of a collective that
Yes.
that you can't articulate.
No, I can articulate. Human race.
Or in that head.
What's that?
How many people do you have in that head of yours?
Just one, as far as I know.
But it's a we.
No.
So it's an I.
I am an I, yes.
Okay.
But I am part of a collective.
So now rephrase your claim, if the Earth is globe tart, into an I claim instead of a we claim.
How so?
Denying all the hard work that I have done.
I didn't say that.
Oh, yeah, but you said we have done.
Okay, would you
So
be more
you know that you're
satisfied
not a
if I-
we.
Okay, okay. I think I see what your sticking point is. You have a problem with saying we. How about if I said
No,
instead
I have
of
a problem.
we?
You can say we if you want. I think if you say we, at least be able to identify this collective you're speaking for. If not, I'm just going to call it schizophrenic.
Nobody other than you cares. This
Should
is
we
a
ask
you
the room?
problem. Yeah, ask the room. See if anybody else cares about this we problem that you seem to be having.
So, okay, sure. Anyone else in the room think it's funny if
Yes,
someone?
yes, I do. I don't like when you use that we because it sounds like you and I don't like, if there's like a pedophile saying we, I don't like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it also sounds like you're trying to just take credit for things that you had absolutely nothing to do with.
Okay, there's
I'm
two
not-
other 10
okay.
feedbacks. Can we get 8 more?
So how about if I rephrased it and said instead of we, I said other human beings have accomplished. Why are you denying all the work that other human beings have accomplished?
You are.
Well, human beings are actually monsters
Isn't that
by
interesting?
definition. So I'm not a human being because I didn't came from apes or rocks. I know that. So you're saying human beings. You're talking about a
Let's cut to
fantasy
the
group
chase.
of people.
Let's cut to the chase. What he's really trying to say, he's trying to put himself in the cloak of authority, right? Because you never say, we commit so many crimes. You usually say, we have caught criminals, right? You don't say, oh, we, molest children. No. They say, we have found that others molest children. But when it's like, oh, we make lots of money as America, right? Oh, yeah, I'm the rich one. Do you see the difference and
What
where
is in
you
the
would apply
positive?
it? So he's trying to cloak himself in the authority that we did all these calculations, we humanity, and you are wrong.
So you're gonna pick and choose when it's we and when it's just him, sort of like they pick and choose when the horizon is geometric or it's just apparent.
I have
And
never claimed that I've done any of this work.
Then you're gonna bring up straight plumb lines, which don't exist in your paradigm anyway. Ham wave all optics and just make an argument from pure geometry.
I have never claimed that I've done any of this work. I've stated on many occasions that I have not done any of this work because it's not worth my time.
So not we then.
I trust my fellow human beings. Now,
Well,
whether you
trust
want
me
to call
then.
them a we or not.
Well, go ahead and trust me then, because I'm your fellow human being.
Well, that brings up a conflict, though, because I have direct contradiction between what they tell me and what you tell me.
You're contradicting what they're telling you, though. That's the weird
And
part.
they are more persuasive.
But you're contradicting what they're telling you. So how did they persuade you?
They are not.
Not me telling
think
you that I don't think plumb lines are curved and wavy like that. That's
you
your
think they
geodetic
are.
surveyors saying that.
No, that's your misinterpretation of what they're saying, and I
Okay,
can live with that.
what's the correct interpretation? What's the correct interpretation of those wavy curved plumb lines that they're offering explanations for in their textbooks?
That
and
for
their
any given
papers.
point, for any given point, there's one vector, which is plumb.
That's not sufficient. That doesn't explain why the plumb lines are actually not curved like they're saying they are.
Well, that's because you don't understand what a vector is.
I don't think you understand what a line is, guy who says you don't need 2 or more points for one.
I never
We're
said that.
beyond the
What
point
said?
of just talking about a single point. We're talking about the line that those points make.
But
Maybe you don't know
nobody
what that is.
nobody needs a line in order to do these measurements.
Okay, but that's
What you
what
need is
we're
a vector.
talking about, if those plumb lines are curved or not. And you're
But they're
trying to
not.
say, no, those lines are all straight and radial to the center of the Earth, which would only happen on a perfect sphere. That's your whole argument. They wouldn't be.
So, but this is an interesting thing that these people who write these books and write these papers don't understand. Everybody's going to be reading them and don't realize how clearly they have to write in order not to be misinterpreted
Okay, so
by
what's the
people
correct
who want to
interpretation?
misinterpret.
Okay, what's the correct interpretation of what they're saying there, which is verbatim, plumb lines have a curvature to them due to gravity?
What it means is that if you move from each of those points down those plumb lines, down that line, you would have a different vector of plumb. That's
Yeah,
what it
we
means.
already know that.
But that vector is the one vector, no matter where, if you're there, you're at that vector, right?
Yeah, we already know that.
So what's the problem then?
I don't know. You keep saying that we're wrong and that they're wrong in the plumb lines being curved. Well, you're saying that we're wrong and somehow they're right, even though
Yes.
they're saying exactly what we're saying.
Well, language is strange that way. It needs to be interpreted. Even the simplest
Okay,
things need
well,
to be
here's what they
interpreted.
said verbatim. The
And you
plumb
you
line has
you
a
you don't
curvature
understand.
to it due to gravity. What's the correct interpretation?
Well, the correct interpretation is they're not using a plumb line when they do their measurements, they're using a plumb vector.
Okay, and that vector is displaced all over the place.
No, that vector can only be pointing in one direction. The
Okay,
definition of a vector. Vectors are a point and a direction.
so you're not drawing any lines when you do reciprocal zenith angles.
We're not drawing any lines. We're using the vector as a line.
Oh, okay, well, that's going to be more than
What?
1 point, though. I don't know how you're
Can
going
I
to get
ask a
angles without
question?
2 lines, at a minimum.
Well, that's a
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
problem. I understand what they're
Well,
doing.
what's a me
I
problem?
just
Do you know how to get it? He's just said it's a me problem that he's
Yes.
going to need 2 lines to get an angle.
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Well,
it's
I want to know which came first, the vector or the curved lines.
Question doesn't even make sense.
How was it established? Nah. Yes, it does.
How
It
was what
does, sir.
established?
Either one. Which came first? Which was established to be the case first, the vector or the curved lines?
What curved lines are we talking about?
Oh my
The curved
goodness.
lines of the vertical, the deflection of the vertical that you're claiming represents a vector.
How do you
So
think they determine that curvy thing?
that's
With
what I'm
gravity,
asking you.
their assumption of
Yeah, each
gravity.
one: Earth's surface, the geoid, and referenced ellipsoid. When they layer all 3 of those together and then draw the plumb line through it, that's how they get a curved line. The 3 models do not work together. It makes a
Yeah.
plumb line that curves.
Well, and this is how
That's the
incoherent
problem.
he is. He wants to bring this down to talking about just a point in space when the entire argument he brought up was to do with angles, which are based on 2 lines at least. Not just a point in space. You're going to tell us how you're going to get an angle just from that?
You know, if we have 2 vectors, we can figure out the angle between the vectors, right?
You're going to need lines to do that.
Actually, we don't.
Really?
Yes.
No, yes, you do.
No, we don't. I've done it before.
This
Everybody's
is
taken
So you're
everybody
the
who
guys who
takes
It's
like
the
to bring up grade 5 geometry all the time, right? You might want to revisit that.
everybody who takes intro physics in college has calculated angles between vectors.
I have a
You're going to
question.
give
need
us the
lines to do that.
give
No, you don't.
give us the definition. Give us the definition of an angle.
I have a question, guys. What happened to refraction and diffraction? It was such a big issue the other day, and now there's no talk about it when we're trying to make straight lines that we can see.
No, that was part of it already. When at the
You
very
guys
beginning.
you guys
Go ahead.
already want to let him go after he said that you don't need lines to measure angles or to acquire angles?
He
All you need is a
absolutely
vector.
most certainly does.
You just need
He's
slopes.
not going to let go on that.
You
Did you
need
did you
slopes.
just said
That's it.
you need slopes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So not curves then.
I wasn't talking about curve, was I?
Oh, you're gonna need to.
I feel like this would be a welcome to flat Earth, but we don't want you, Scott Mackey.
Well, good.
You've said so many utterly insane things. You've said that you don't need 2 or more points to form a line. You've said that you
I never
don't
said
need
that.
lines. You don't need lines to
I never
acquire
said you don't need
angles.
2 more points to form a line.
Yes, you did, and it's on record, and we're going to
You
clip it
keep
out,
needing me to
and we're
say
going to
that.
play it till the end of time, Scott Mackey. And you're going to be
No.
in here saying, "I never said that," and we're going to have it on record with you saying it. So keep denying it.
Okay. Hope that makes you feel better. Help you sleep at night.
Wait. So actually, I was wrong. So are your slopes curved?
Slopes are not by definition curved. Slopes are straight.
Yeah, they are. Curved is slope.
What? Not in physics, it ain't. Not in
Yeah,
mathematics, it
curve
isn't.
is slope. Yes, it is.
You can find the instantaneous slope of a curve for sure just by taking the derivative of it. But I mean, that's what a derivative is, right? It's the instantaneous slope of a function.
It's a
Yeah, and
deviation of slope. That's what a curve is.
this is why interesting when you guys reference calculus too, because Newton, supposedly invented calculus.
Uh-huh.
So you could do some calculus problems, figure out who's smarter in calculus, and whoever wins this calculus battle, they have to decide if there's a God or not. And since Newton had wrote lots about God and is smarter than you'd have to then concede that your atheism is out the window.
Well, why?
Because you'd have to believe him instead of you. Because you're all based on some sort of level of intelligence proves right and wrong. The
No.
smarter someone is, the more right they are.
Nope. There's been some very, very smart people who believe in God. But Newton was a bad example because he was kind of crazy.
Because he was
Everybody
drinking
knows
mercury.
that.
Shit.
Well, Newton thought that
Well,
his own concept of gravity was crazy.
Yeah, he said, don't attribute it to me. Attribute it to somebody else, not me.
whatever. But going back into these great men thing, a lot of you guys keep going back to that.
Because you prop these people up as somehow divine in nature.
I did not
Wait.
mention Newton.
You mentioned Newton. No, you mentioned Newton, not us.
Well, he mentioned calculus, which invoked me to mention Newton.
Well, you didn't have to do that.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
If he didn't. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of on me. Talking about how you can you can make a curved line straight using derivatives.
No, they don't make the current line straight. You can figure out the slope at the point. And that's probably how they create those curves that you're looking at. The plumb curve is they probably go to each of those points and they get the vector at that point, and then they tie them all together.
No, they don't. It's
They
just a
have to
mathematical
assume it.
consequence of the model.
Yeah, there's no measurement involved.
It's yeah. I mean, it's all conceptual. If you have gravity pulling the Earth into this lumpy spheroidal thing, then the mass is all uneven, and that's warping the direction of plumb.
Of course, it will. Yes, there you go. Good. It's warping the direction of plumb at any given point.
Yeah.
And so if you drop down on this theoretical potato that you like to call it,
Yes.
as you got further and further down, the plumb line would change. Yes.
There you go. You got it. You got there.
I knew it all along.
What type of line is that? Is that a curved line or a straight line?
But at any given point, you only have one vector.
Gonna need more than
No,
1
with
point
a
for a
vector.
line. Gonna need lines to make angles.
Coming back to this line thing, we don't need a line for a vector.
You need a line for angles. You need 2 of them.
No, we don't.
Show me an angle without two lines.
It's
I'll show you
insane.
I can show you the angle between two vectors.
Yeah, you'd be drawing lines.
Go and point
No.
that. Go and post that for us.
I
Post
just
it,
do the
please.
mathematics. I don't have to draw a single
Post us
line
an
to figure out
angle.
the angle.
Post us an angle. Post us a visual image of an angle without lines. Do that for me, please. I beg you.
Space between two intersecting lines. I don't know why you say stuff like that. And I was just kind of kidding about the clip comment earlier, but dude, what the hell?
Because I've actually done it in physics class, where we've just been given the vectors, and we calculate the angle between them. Do it all the time.
Show us what it looks like visually.
Yeah, I just want to see an angle acquired without any lines.
I can give you two equations, and you can calculate the angle between those two equations. That doesn't require a line to have numbers, right?
You're
so if I gave you
insane.
some,
That's
so if I gave you something
the angle
in the
between
form of,
two equations.
yes. So funny, you guys are laughing at these things that they do in physics and they do in mathematics all the time. And you think it's crazy. Shows me you guys never had physics or mathematics, which is kind of sad.
The fact that
Meanwhile,
you
when
just
you
keep using
measure an
AdHom
angle,
after AdHom shows me that you still have no globe proof. It's kind of sad.
Well, hey,
and then
have one
meanwhile,
person here
when
tell me I'm wrong.
when we
Have I
measure
begun physics
angles
or
in
mathematics?
reality,
Yeah.
we use straight lines.
Yeah.
When we measure angles in reality, we use straight lines.
So
Not
what does a
equations.
theodolite? What does a theodolite use to determine plumb? Does it drop a line? Hello.
No, there's like a mercury bubble or some sort of thing inside that's calibrated, which is why they got to be calibrated.
Yes. Is there a
You have
line
to
involved?
you'll see it on the, that's what it's interesting. We see like Jesse Gordon or B-ball walk out there and say, "Look at this photo I took with my auto level," and you're like, "Dude, the calibration is like 8 years ago. You think it's been banged around and bounced around, moved in and out of storages? I got this auto level discounted at Club Med for $9.99." You're like, dude, those things cost like $100. If you got one for like $10, it's probably not working correctly. Okay.
Yeah, perpendicular to horizontal. Yeah,
Is
they drop
there a line
line
involved?
perpendicular to horizontal. Yes, horizontal being, obviously necessary.
Do these devices have a line in them anywhere that they're using to calculate plumb or figure out plumb?
That they drop perpendicular to the horizontal plane we live on. Yes.
So you think this device has a physical line inside of them?
Just you're telling us. He just told you there's a bubble involved. I know that the people do
No,
drop lines to
there's
establish
actually
flow.
not.
So then why are you asking?
Just to see what you guys know.
He just told you it was a bubble, didn't he? You said you asked him if there was a line in there.
Yeah, you'll get these little screws. There'll be like screws on the tripod that you'll slightly turn and then make sure.
Well,
that
listen.
But
Listen
even
to
if
this.
there were a
To get
bubble, it's
Elijah
still not
caught
a
up.
line, is it?
Elijah, just to get Elijah caught up, he's arguing that you do not need lines to acquire angles.
Actually, he said that an angle is between two equations.
It could be. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So the only reason you can get, oh my god,
Not all angles, but you can definitely figure out an angle between two equations. We do it all the time. And this one I do say we because I used to do it.
Yeah, but if it's anything in relation to the Earth, you're gonna get probably something plumb perpendicular to horizontal, or horizontal, which would be perpendicular to plumb.
Okay. We agree. Horizontal is pretty good in a plumb. But folks here seem to think you can't figure out what plumb is. I think you can.
Not without. I mean, not without. You know the. I mean, it has to be. Yeah, down
90
vertical.
degrees of parallel,
Elijah,
which would be a
we
straight
just need a
line.
vector. We just need a vector. We don't need
You need.
a line.
Otherwise, what the hell are you doing? Okay, one line. That's nice. Then what?
No, a line. A vector's not a line. Apparently, you don't need lines. You just need vectors.
Vector's a
Vector.
theoretical thing.
Vector the direction, but okay. So you have one of those. Then what? Is it in relation to anything? Like I don't know, the Earth, perhaps?
Well, that's the question, right?
Not for me.
Are plumb lines parallel?
Of course they are,
Simple question. How would we verify that?
because we live on a horizontal plane.
So you're assuming the answer. How would we do it if we wanted to try to verify whether any two plumb lines are parallel? What would we do?
Verify an axiom. You don't try to verify or prove axioms. They just are.
Why is it an axiom?
What do you mean? Why is it an axiom? So we have a horizontal plane. So we have vertical, and we have horizontal. They're subsequent to each other.
And so if we could, if we could demonstrate that the plumb lines are not parallel, would that
Like when we build houses and everything, obviously
Lines.
we're not using bubbles for no reason, or we're not using levels for no reason. It's just the nature of our reality. You get a level, and then you get
The
something.
nature of our reality.
So, but if we could demonstrate,
What do you mean by that? What does nature of our reality mean to you?
What do you mean? What do I
Scott-
mean by that? I just explained it.
You muted Epsilon for no good reason.
That was well.
Well, because if he doesn't know something, do you keep asking over and over and over again, taking no answer, or do you just put yourself on mute and listen until you get it?
I thought we weren't talking about lines, Scott. I thought we were talking about vectors.
See, this is what's funny. In my worldview, if I'm not tracking a conversation, I listen until I get it. His worldview is to filibuster the conversation with questions and take no answer, and then say he doesn't understand it because of you, your fault. So put him on mute, let him listen for a while, or not. That's why. Do you get it, Scott, or not? Is that part too much to understand? Let's see if he got even that basic level of logic.
You're talking about Epsilon right now?
Or just in general. If somebody doesn't understand a conversation, should they A, filibuster the conversation, asking the same question over and over again and take no answer, or B, put themselves on mute and just listen for a while until they start to get it?
If those are my two options, I'd go with B.
Okay. So you did redeem yourself a little bit. I thought for sure you were going to say A. Because Brenda did that once to me. Brenda's like, I go A. I go, why? Why would you do A, right? Because I gotta know the answer. I'm like, okay, put yourself on mute. Maybe the answer will become apparent. But they have the answer right now. I go, but you're not taking the answer. So how do they have the answer right now? He went back and forth like this. I'm like, geez, Brenda, you're just like being contrarian at this point. But now I got you, though. I can say, hey, Scott Mackay got it. You put yourself on mute, listen up, and maybe it'll become apparent.
Okay. So
God
back to the
bless Brenda.
conversation. If we can demonstrate persuasively that plumb lines are not parallel, what would you conclude?
Why would they be? They have to be wavy and random in your religion.
Only if he also accepts all of the geodesy stuff that he was claiming earlier. You have to throw that away first, and then present a perfect sphere, and then have parallel lines that draw directly down to the core of the sphere, and then show they're not parallel. They're all like slices of a pie, if you would. So he's got a lot of work to do. Number one, he's got to come up with
He
a
needs.
new.
He needs.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go. No, go on. I was.
Oh,
No,
I was gonna
sorry,
just
I
double
didn't
down.
realize.
I was gonna say he's gonna have to come up with a new model
Yeah,
because the current
exactly.
model isn't. Okay, go ahead.
He needs to redefine plumb line as plumb vector.
Well, I told him the way out.
Get working.
The way out, he's going to have to argue for a perfect sphere with evenly distributed mass.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. That's another way out.
And yet none of you want to even begin to address how come any plumb vector, we'll call it a plumb
He's not
vector, call
even
it a plumb line,
listening.
how none of them are ever parallel. Why are they
He's
never
not even
parallel?
listening. We don't know what you're talking about
I know.
or
That's
why it
unfortunate.
matters.
I know. That's unfortunate.
No, because first of all, if a plumb line is perfectly, hold on, sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ, guys. Oh, they're chasing me. Go ahead, talk. Forget it.
Is somebody talking?
Yeah, it
No,
was
sorry.
Elijah.
I know
Oh, I
where
heard
I come.
Elijah, then he stopped.
Oh, okay. I thought he was talking to someone off mic. Are you busy, Elijah, or are you with us?
Yeah, I was, but I just died.
And I'm just wondering why none of you ever want to deal with the fact that these plumb lines are not parallel.
Well, I mean, how wouldn't are they all directly vertical?
Yes, they are vertical to their specific location, yes.
I don't know what that means. They're specific to their location. Okay.
And they all
Then
seem
that
to
means
point
that
to it.
then
They
that
all
means
seem to point
that
to a center point.
then that means that they're all paralleling.
It would
You're
be on a
asking
flat
why
Earth.
aren't they?
It would be on a flat Earth, but they don't seem to be, which is why we conclude the Earth's not flat.
No, they are.
But
That's
they're
what
not.
that's what co-altitude is. You can't have diverging zeniths, especially in navigation. So I don't know why on earth they would then be
Why are we talking about
not,
zeniths?
because you have a co-altitude, because you have two lines that are going up to the star 290 degrees from you, the observer, and from the GP. Both of those are parallel. Also, the parallel planes that you have to have for the LOP, same thing. So I don't know why all of a sudden when goobers drop these lines, they're not parallel. I just don't get it. I don't get what you're doing that
I
you're
know.
not getting parallel lines. Could it be because you're working with a model that you don't have, which is a perfect sphere?
No, it could be that we do the measurements. Well, not we, I shouldn't say we, that geodetic surveyors do these measurements. They take the data, and their data does not
Calculations,
indicate.
you mean?
Yes, they do the
Okay,
calculations, and their calculations do not
calculations.
indicate
That's
parallel
why. That
plumbs.
must be why.
So you
Difference
think they're
between a
wrong.
measurement and a calculation. I get it now.
But we have to do calculations for big things, don't we?
Okay.
I mean, that's the only way we can measure big things, right? We measure pieces of them and add all those pieces up, and we get the big picture.
No,
Is that not
you gotta
correct?
measure. You gotta measure an area first, and then you can calculate what you would need for the area. Like my room or my house, it could be X square feet, and then I'd be able to know how much flooring I would need. But I need to know the area first.
But how do we do the big stuff, like mountains and the earth and canyons and all these? How
Oh,
do
like
we measure the big
well,
things? Yeah.
well, I mean, not to hit you with a red herring, but the way you would determine the height of a mountain is to use trig, which would require a flat plane because you need a 90 degree to the base of the mountain.
And so, how are you using this trig? What are you doing?
Goodness me.
Oh,
It's a 90
Using
degree.
optics?
very, very tedious.
Yeah, no.
If
Education
talking
is a
about,
hard thing. Takes time,
if we're talking about
patience.
measuring an altitude of a mountain with trigonometry, we need 90 degrees underneath that mountain, straight down to the surface of the earth, and then 90 degrees to you. So you can then measure the elevation angle up to the top of that mountain, and then you can do your calculations. But the requirement for a 90-degree triangle is obvious.
Isn't it? Sorry, isn't it in respect to sea level?
But here's the funny thing, right? If you do that trig and you go, say, 50 miles from the base of the mountain, and you calculate an elevation based on flat lines. And then you back up 100 miles and do the calculation again. And you back up 200 miles and do the calculation again. Guess what happens?
You don't take account for refraction. What?
Guess what happens?
You don't take account for refraction. What?
You don't get the same elevation.
No shit,
It-
because
it-
you don't
it-
take account for refraction, and when you do, you superimpose a ball.
ah.
Aware of it.
Yeah, it's weird how they argue from ideal geometry when we're not talking about black swans.
But do you guys understand that you don't get the same you don't get the same elevation from each of those points, right?
It's like you
Using
missed
the
what I
trig
said.
you just agreed to use.
It's like you missed what I said.
Yeah, you said something about refraction that you have no reason to assume is playing a factor.
Oh,
Wait, excuse me? What did he say? I mean, what are we talking about?
we're talking about elevation angles up to mountains and going 100 miles away and then not converging with the same altitude, because in this instance we don't have to take account for the fact that we're observing through 100 miles of atmosphere, so don't have to take account for refraction.
But if you move away, I mean, what difference does it make?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You're still gonna need to create a 90.
I know. But the interesting thing is, and when you do all those 90s, right, you calculate your distance away from it and your angle of elevation. You move 100 miles away and you calculate your distance from that, being 100 miles, and you calculate your angle of elevation. Then you move 200 miles away and you calculate your angle of elevation. They all point, all those maths, those three different equations give you a different altitude each time.
A different altitude of what?
The top of the mountain.
Hmm.
They don't yield the same number.
Why?
With respect to what?
With respect to your trigonometry that you just accepted as a valid way to do this. You just simply do the math and they don't give you the same answer.
And who's done that? I'd like to see that.
Sorry,
People have done that hundreds of
friend.
times, if not thousands of
I'd like to
times.
see it. I'd like to see it.
I'd
What
like
they
to see
do.
it done.
But
I'd like
you
to see
could
it
if you
done on
wanted to.
different.
Since you haven't,
I'd like
you
to
don't
see it.
want to.
I'd like it to be done on
You know,
different
because
days.
you could be done at you could be at a different elevation. See, the thing about a mountain is, unlike the celestial bodies doing actual trig, your
Uh-huh.
elevation matters. So how do you know that your elevation didn't change instead of the mountains?
Oh, that's a good point. But you could also take an elevation looking from the point A, 50 miles, to point B, 100 miles, and see if there's an angle of inclination there. And then you could do the same thing from point B to point C and say if there's an angle of inclination there, and you could put them all into your mathematics, right? And you can figure out
Excuse me,
everything.
but how do you know? How do you know that when you move 100 miles away from the mountain that you didn't change in elevation, though?
I just told you that. We
Not
can look
that.
at point A and look at point B and see if it's higher than each
Sorry,
other.
being as I know a little bit about this, could you tell me why on different days the mountain's altitude seems to change? Is the mountain getting taller and smaller on different days, or is that because of the atmosphere that you're looking through?
There is
Oh,
sometimes that the mountain can appear to change. Yes.
Oh, from the
Thank
same? You mean from the same point, Jedi?
Yes.
Yeah.
From the same point.
So
Yeah, that's
again,
true.
different,
True as well.
so on different days, the altitude of the mountain will appear to change because of the
Yes.
atmospheric conditions between you and the top
Yes.
of the mountain. So were you
Yes.
suggesting that the mountain is growing taller and shortening on different days of the year? Or is that
No,
because of the
that would be
atmosphere that you
silly.
through? And you will remember that 5 minutes ago I said refraction that you wanted to ignore.
Well, but you were implying
And
that refraction. You were
refraction or
implying
not,
that
you're still dealing with a plane. You still need 90 degrees to the base of the mountain.
yes, I know, but if we do that math, it doesn't
You say
work.
yes, I know. So then that's sorry to interrupt, but that's the end of the point. You need a 90 degree, which means you need a line from you to the 90-degree angle to the top of the mountain, sir.
Except
Like
that math doesn't
your
work.
your red herring, aka the yeah, but doesn't change that.
Your math doesn't work then.
Excuse me. So
Your
then
math
how did
Oh man.
doesn't work.
Eratosthenes? So then how did Eratosthenes get the height of the mountain to determine the radius of the Earth using the geometric horizon on no Atmo day then?
I have no idea what Eratosthenes did, and I
So
don't
then,
care.
did I say Eratosthenes? I meant
Yeah,
Al-Biruni. I'm
Alberuni.
sorry. How did
Al-Biruni.
Al-Biruni get the height of the mountain using the method that I'm talking about to then go to the top of the mountain and then use the geometric horizon again on no Atmo day to get the radius of the Earth? How do you do that?
I don't know. I don't know anything about this guy.
Okay. So let's back it on up. So the
Well,
thing you said that I'm
Al-Biruni?
correct for so let's back it on up. The thing that you said that I'm incorrect for telling you is actually the method Al-Biruni. So he's incorrect.
I don't know. I don't even know who Al-Biruni is.
Oh yeah. See now, I don't know. Now things get all. You're just a weird little man.
This is part of your heliocentric rhetoric as in regard to the measurement of the radius of the Earth. It wasn't just Aristophanes with sticks and shadows. There's a gentleman called Al-Biruni who went to the top of the mountain after figuring out how tall the mountain was using trigonometry, and then using the geometric horizon noticed that it dipped and therefore declared that the Earth was a ball with a set radius of 3,959 miles. Don't you know your own rhetoric?
Apparently not. No, I've never heard of this guy.
Okay, well maybe just a very quick Google search. You can find him on Wikipedia.
I can't.
Nice.
Come on, Scott. Are you fucking around, dude?
He is fucking around.
Dude,
Like
this
he got caught out there. So when I called him out for his red herring, he said, "Yeah, but." And then on top of that, hold on, sorry. So I called him out for his red herring, and he said, "Yeah, but," which means he conceded to my point, but then tried to move beyond it. When in actuality, he doesn't even know that Al-Biruni used the same method. And like, where do you think we're getting this shit from?
There's globalists who name themselves Al-Biruni because they got triggered that QE pronounced it wrong.
Al-Baruhif, right?
Yeah. And you guys think like you've never heard of this guy. You completely
Where would I have heard of him?
That's not even important. That's not
whatever.
The bottom line is you're wrong.
I'll go to Gems and see if they know who Al-Biruni is.
Okay.
Go to Gems and stay there.
Well, I mean, if you guys
they
don't
got
wanna,
their show.
have your
Yeah, hey,
positions challenged at all, sure, I can go away.
Scott,
I mean, if you guys want to
his
echo
show's
chamber,
gonna
talk
start.
amongst yourselves, yeah.
Wait, I think his show started already. The Gem Panda Sunday roast. It's been going on.
I figure you guys want a dissenting voice in the room. But if
So,
you don't, I
Scott-
can leave. I have no problem with that. I don't
So,
want to be where
Scott,
I'm
when
not
we're
wanted.
talking about a scale of hundreds of miles, how come you ignore the atmosphere and make an argument from ideal geometry, but then you do exactly the opposite when we're talking about a scale of, like, I don't know, just 10 miles?
And it's a red herring because 100 miles away, you're gonna have to do trig again with a horizontal
know.
baseline.
I agree. And if you try to do that, the math doesn't work.
So then, what are they doing if they're not doing trig?
They're making some adjustments based on the shape of the
So
Earth.
are they still doing trig but making adjustments?
Yes.
Oh,
Then
well,
why are
hold
you
up.
lying?
Sorry,
That's
would
what
that
they-
also
that's what they
mean that
do.
the Earth changes on different days because we conceded earlier that the mountain will appear on different days to be shorter and taller? Is that because the radius of the Earth is changing?
No.
Right then. So what the hell are you going on about? Because you keep ignoring the point that on different days the mountain will appear to be a different size depending on the atmosphere that you are looking through, but you're just going to say, no, that's because of the curvature of the Earth. So therefore, being as the mountain appears to be smaller and bigger on different days, that's the radius of the Earth changing, according to you that's whistling past this point.
I haven't whistled past anything.
You have, mate.
I haven't.
I've just
You are
pointed
right now.
out. And over the last 7 minutes now, we conceded,
I-
on different days, on different days, that mountain will appear to be a different size. Is
Yes.
that because the radius of the Earth is changing?
No.
What is it by then?
Probably atmospheric refraction.
There we go. Thank you very much. So when you turn around to us and say the math doesn't work, yeah, that's because of refraction. You then clarify the actual height of the mountain some other way, but ultimately, you've got a problem. You
Well, but
keep
how about
whistling
if-
past the refraction and heretics point of ideal geometry, which you will ignore with regards to the black swan over a distance of 10 miles.
How
That's
about
not
if we-
ideal. Legit. Is the mountain getting
Sorry,
bigger
if I
and
could,
smaller because the radius of the Earth is changing over a different month?
Clearly no.
Thank you. Fuck off to Gems.
But how about if we had a way to make an adjustment so that the maths always worked?
Well, it's crazy because I mean, again, he keeps on. Like we began on reciprocal zeniths, yes.
Yes.
Right. And what does reciprocal mean? What does reciprocity mean? Because I did try to introduce the language of co-altitude, a co-relationship. What does reciprocal mean?
Back and forth, as far as I know. In algebra, reciprocal was perpendicular, was it not? So the opposite inverse of the slope.
You know what an area of equal altitude is?
But see, with the reciprocal angles, we don't need co-altitudes. They can be at different altitudes.
What makes them reciprocal then?
The fact that they're pointing at each other.
They're not pointing at each other if they're divergent from each other.
They're not pointing at each other if they're divergent from each other. What does that even mean?
You mean pointing at each other to the center of the Earth if the Earth were a perfect sphere?
No, reciprocal
So where are
angles
they
means
pointing at?
each
Where are they
other.
pointing to each other at?
You take one theodolite, put on top of a mountain, you put another theodolite on top of another mountain, and you point each of those at the other one.
Oh, so it's really a misnomer then, because it wouldn't be a reciprocal zenith angle. It's a dumb name.
Okay, what should we call it? So we can
I
have
don't
the
know. Why don't you ask McToon, the person who came up with it?
Why is it a
It's
dumb
just
name then?
it's reciprocal
just
angle,
told
but they throw in zenith to try to make it seem like you're measuring up to the sky instead of measuring down.
No, zenith doesn't mean measure up to the sky. It just means measuring up and down to a particular thing. Could be in the
You
sky,
can
could be on the
do
ground. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, reciprocal angles are fine. You do them in land navigation all the time. That if you know, hey, I'm at a spot I don't know, but I can see the mountaintop, and that mountaintop has a 45-degree angle from my
Proven
compass
and
from it.
constructed yet.
So that I could just draw a circle around the mountain with a reciprocal angle of 45, and I'm
So far,
somewhere
you're
in
just
that
further
circle.
constructed.
Then if you got
Yeah,
another
yes.
location,
That's
you say, hey, there's a lighthouse
No,
over
hold
there.
on, shut up.
Okay.
No, not you, man.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you're talking about a circle of equal altitude, aren't you? Something that's going to be parallel
Yeah,
to
that you would
another
use.
circle.
What is
Maybe that's
parallel
why he's like,
circles?
"What are you talking about, man?" But keep going.
They call it
What's a parallel circle?
resection. Using resection.
I want to know what a parallel circle is. I've never heard of that. That's a new one
Oh,
for
okay. Hold on. Let me drop it in the chat for anybody who doesn't know that you're bullshitting.
We're
See.
indulging his bullshit, though. That's the problem.
you.
This is what Scott wants. Scott wants just the bullshit to be flying.
Yeah,
Because
but
none
this
of
will
the
be
new
good.
people are going to have a
Let
clue.
me drop this in the chat. This will
He
be good.
likes to be the center of attention. That's why he got mad at the other two guys because they steal more attention than he does.
I got mad at who?
Yeah, we'll cap this point off and then
Pete and
move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even see what else we need from him. He said that you don't need 2 or more points for a line.
Pete and Johnny.
He said that you don't need lines for angles. He's just said so many crazy things that
You
I mean,
don't
I'm
need
good.
2 points for a line.
Yeah, he said that. Yes,
No,
he
I never
did,
said
and it's
that.
clipped, and now he's gonna lie.
Look, all
Yeah,
right.
I heard
So
him
check
say
it out.
something.
You said you don't know about parallel circles. Okay. Let me just read the end of this. No, actually, you know what? I'm gonna read the whole thing.
Okay.
The whole thing, but
I'll read it with
to
you. Does it
ensure
zoom
that-
in? Okay.
Why is he talking? Why are you talking?
I don't know.
A spontaneous utterance.
I'm sorry. I
No.
thought it was an intellectual conversation.
Yeah, but no, why are you talking when I got the citation I said I would get because you said you didn't know what a parallel circle was? Why are you talking now? Why are you quiet now?
Which one? Do you want me to talk or want me to be quiet? I'll do whatever you would like.
No, I want you to tell me why you were just muttering through me.
Because I was saying
That
I'd
was
read more
me.
with you.
That was me saying that.
No, you only did that once. Anyway, whatever. Okay. Are you guys ready?
For what?
For me to read this, the thing that I dropped in the chat, because he
What is
said he
this?
didn't know. He said he didn't know what parallel circles were. He never heard of it. So I'm going to give him one particular instance in where you have parallel circles.
A circle that is parallel to another circle?
Mm-hmm. Can I read it? Is that fine?
It's a lot to read, just saying. It's like
Can I read it? Is it fine?
it's about 5 paragraphs, so I would say no.
I'm not reading all of it. Can I read the part that I'm citing? Is it fine?
Yes, Elijah. This guy can be put
Jesus.
on mute if he can't handle it.
To ensure that the object is at its lowest possible point, the sextant is rotated along the axis of the telescope, and the time of measurement and altitude are noted by measuring the angle theta of a known star from the horizon and using a book containing known reference values for the star in question at the time of measurement. It is possible to determine the distance r along the surface of the Earth to the point at which the star is exactly overhead. From this, a navigator knows he is on a specific circle along the plane of the surface of Earth of radius r, known as the line of position. He does not know its direction from this point. However, by examining a second star, a second radius can be deduced. The navigator now knows he is at one of the points where both the circular functions meet. In the case there is only one real route, he knows his position, although this is only possible if the radii are parallel. You're welcome.
You said the radii.
Yeah, of the
Of the
circle, not
circle.
of the circle that he's created on the parallel horizontal plane, not of the Earth. The circle he has created, where he is at the central point.
Welcome.
Okay.
Yep, you're welcome.
So what you're basically
Critical
saying is
hit.
the circles are in the same plane. All right. Makes sense.
Oof.
And so what do you
All
conclude
right,
from that?
moving on. What's up, Wolfgang?
Yeah, what's up, boys? Sorry, I was just jumping in just because I'm listening in and out, but this guy's not here to have an honest conversation, obviously.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, really.
Yeah. Scott, let me ask you this as a side
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
Do you believe that people have landed on the moon?
Yes, of course.
He's like Bob's cousin or something.
What makes you believe that?
Oh, I thought you was asking me.
Oh, no.
Honestly, I trust the people who told me they did it. And I watched the moon landing when I was 5 years old or whatever it was.
Okay.
That's why I believe
Fair
it.
enough. So just because the government said so.
The
Did you
government
believe
and a whole
that?
lot of other people, yes.
Did you believe that Iraq had WMDs when the U.S.
No,
government said
I did
Iraq had
not
WMDs?
believe that. No, I did not believe that.
Why didn't you trust
Why
those
not?
people, but you trusted the other people?
Because I had really good evidence to believe they were wrong. I had other sources that were giving me really good evidence.
But they
Like
use
who?
satellites to pinpoint where the WMDs were.
But they didn't.
But they did.
Why didn't you bring up the evidence? Why didn't you bring up the evidence for the moon instead of saying because I believed?
You said they gave you really good evidence. Who gave you good
Mm-hmm.
evidence? What evidence? Of what?
Reporters were telling me, reporters from magazines like The Nation and In These Times and Z Magazine and
Okay, yeah,
all
but
these
what
other magazines I was
evidence?
reading.
I asked what evidence, though. Not who
Oh, the
told you
evidence
what.
providing what was counterclaims by the CIA. The CIA was having an internal debate that was publicized, and most of the information that was being produced was from this Office of Special Operations, something like that. Dick Cheney's little thing that he made up, and I found the curveball to
Is
be
all
less
of
than
your evidence
persuasive.
conversations amongst superpowers? Just before you continue.
Is all my evidence? No, they were by reporters.
So you had the
And
UN weapon inspectors who told you, no, there is no weapons of mass destruction.
That's another reason I didn't believe him, because I had Hans Blix telling me that we haven't found anything, and
but you had NASA showing they had photos of it. So who would...
I never saw. I saw it and never saw any NASA photos of it.
Dude, Colin Powell presented them to the General Council. What the fuck, dude? Hans Blix was considered a quack. He was considered a NASA denier, conspiracy theorist, quack, because he was denying photos from space.
He wasn't among my peers.
So if you saw the NASA photos, would NASA be lying, or what? Would you believe them?
If NASA showed me some photos of nuclear centrifuges, to create nuclear weapons, yeah, I'd believe them, but they didn't. They didn't.
Well, it would just be buildings they're showing you, wouldn't
it?
Yeah, exactly.
The inside
of the buildings.
Oh,
okay,
you're
tell
saying
me what's inside of them.
Yeah, I get what you're
NASA
saying.
can't tell us what's inside those buildings. That was Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz and all those other morons.
Yeah,
so you're saying that the U.S. government told a lie to invade a country?
I don't know if I'd call it a lie. I think they believed it, and I think they were very wrong. And it turns out I am correct, or the people on my side were correct, and they were incorrect, as they admitted.
But you don't think there's any element of anyone just wanting to go and invade a country, so that's why they push this narrative?
No, I think that might be the core of why they were wrong. They may have really wanted it, and a confirmation bias was weighing heavily on their decisions.
So you're saying this country, this government, misled the public in order to garner support for destroying a country and killing millions of people, but you trust them when they told you that they went and flew to the moon?
They're not the same people.
Right, so what makes you trust the older people, not the newer people?
The older people bombed.
Older or newer.
The older people
but you wouldn't have had the access to the level of information that was being spoken about with regards to the Iraq war as there was with the moon landing. So wouldn't it just be a case of you had much less information to go on back then?
I disagree. I think we would have. The New York Times was doing really good work about the Vietnam War at the time and showing how the Vietnam War was going really badly. That was at the same time. So there was all information out there, and they were talking about bombings in Cambodia when Nixon was denying it. So the information's always out there.
So do you think Vietnam? So do you think the Vietnam War was a justified invasion, or do you think that was shady?
No.
Okay, so then that's the same government as the one doing the moon landing, right?
Yes, I know, but the reason I think they were shady because I was getting, I was, 4 or 5 years old at the time, but I can look at the New York Times articles later when I grew up, and I could see what they were saying at the time.
Okay, but when you said the new government, you don't trust the newer government, but you trusted the older one. But now you're just saying you didn't really trust the older one because you knew they were doing shady stuff in Vietnam.
No, but it wasn't the government putting these; it was NASA, and NASA wasn't lying about Vietnam.
So NASA isn't part of the government?
They're a different part of the government. Government's huge.
The executive branch.
Okay, so you know specifically the people in NASA, the part of the U.S. military, were trustworthy, but the other part of the U.S. military that were going into Vietnam, they weren't trustworthy.
No, I've just seen zero evidence to suggest to me that NASA is not trustworthy, where I've seen plenty of evidence to suggest to me that Nixon was not trustworthy.
Have you looked really hard for evidence about NASA being trustworthy or untrustworthy?
It depends what you. I don't know. I guess not. But why would I?
Yeah, why would you?
Because I think somebody would have
trust them.
No. I trust everybody else. I trust everybody. Well, I do trust them. True, but I trust them because nobody else who would love to break a story like this has broken such a story. It would make their careers to show that NASA.
Quite a lot of people were calling out NASA.
Dude,
yeah,
this is the best part. The 1960s, the atheists kept taking NASA to court over and over again.
What is you and the atheist, Crit? Jeez.
Because it's an identity that you like to associate with.
It has nothing to do with their belief in a God. This has nothing to do with that, man.
Yeah, it does because
let him finish about his explanation then.
Okay.
Finish what he was going to say.
NASA said that God picked America to win the space race because God loves capitalism. NASA said that they gave the glory to God. They read from Apollo 8. NASA said they're going to take communion on the moon to celebrate Christmas. They did all these things, and the atheists were irate. Okay, they took NASA to court over and over again, saying there was no religious freedom. This was a separation of church and state issue, and they had to prove it. So the judge in the court said they kicked it down to the lower court. Said, well, this would have to be something you'd have to look at the lower court, who then said no jurisdiction, because they would say that even if humans leave Earth, but they never prove that they left Earth, they would still have their human rights. And then the atheists were like, well, I thought that only applied inside America. A whole bunch of stuff came out of these court cases. You can look it up. One of the most famous atheist activists there were. I'm drawing the blank on her name right now. Madeline something or another.
Albright.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, she's the one who led this charge. She was like the biggest Apollo. I mean, you got George Carlin, the same time frame, said there's no way Nixon put people on the moon. I can't remember the exact joke he said. Like, Nixon couldn't even put something, like, I can't remember exactly. It was something on the quote with, like, he couldn't do stuff here on Earth. What makes you think he can do stuff out in space? It was just a big flex. It's like, here, watch me. I can pick up the green phone and I can lock someone's heels on the moon. The whole talking point was like same thing Obama tried. I got a phone and a pen, and I can just make things happen because I'm the most powerful man in all of creation. He didn't do shit, dude. He lied about it. Nixon lied about every single thing he did. The Apollo program was no different. Bush lied about every single thing he did. The photos from space are no different.
I take it you're done?
Yeah, did you get that or not?
Okay. It's a good thing Nixon was not a NASA astronaut. We didn't rely on Nixon to actually build these spaceships.
No, he was just in charge of the whole program.
It's irrelevant.
Astronauts don't build spaceships.
Yeah, remember the astronauts gone wild. I'm just a passenger on the flight.
Well, now that you derailed that conversation.
No, it's the same one, dude. It's about blind trust in the executive branch. Your worldview is contradictory. At one hand, you'll be like, I trust the government. And the next hand, you're like, I don't trust the government. And you're like, well, okay.
You're skipping the whole part about the reasons why.
Okay, what's the reason to trust NASA and not trust NASA?
I just told you. I've seen no credible information to show that they're lying.
The weapons of photos of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
We've been through that. Just a second ago. All they could show is buildings.
There's more than just buildings, dude. I posted the link from CNN. They had trucks. They had like the launch platform, the outdoor. They had the mobile, decontamination facility. All this stuff was labeled. The best argument I heard against it was NASA just took the photos. The intelligence community put all the label. They're the ones who put a little pin. Called, hey, that's a launch vehicle.
This
that
is
right
literally
there.
what gave us. This literally what gave us the green light. NASA.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just kind of to show and to highlight that your level of trust that you're placing here isn't one based really on evidence. It's one based on emotion, where you'll trust the government in one aspect and deny them in another based on your emotional connection to the story, not because of the hard facts as they present themselves.
And what about what I said was not based on hard facts?
Well, your determined trust in NASA during the Apollo missions, when at the same time pointing out that the government at the time was shady with what they were doing in Vietnam, but you've compartmentalized your trust to the very specific portion of the story that you really want to be true, that you won't allow yourself to be skeptical of, as you confirmed. You didn't really say you investigated it much. Whereas the
If
rest, you're
anything,
like, yeah, I can be skeptical of that. Because you're
if
protecting a
anything,
worldview and a religion. That's really what this whole kind of cope that you're doing is about. It's like the
well, what,
worldview religion aspect. It's not about the facts or the physical reality. It's
so
deeper
now
than
I
that
think
for you.
I agree. Now I think we're getting to something. What worldview religion do you think I'm trying to protect?
The heliocentric
Heliocentrism.
globe.
And how does that serve me?
Well, it doesn't actually, Scott. You just seem to be under the impression that you want to maintain it anyway.
But why do you think I'd be motivated to protect it?
Fear, probably,
Of what?
primarily.
Fear of what?
That you're wrong. No.
Losing
Getting
your
mocked,
worldview.
The
How would we
consequences.
know your motivations?
getting mocked or ridiculed. Got a very thin ego.
He suggested I was motivated by fear.
Yes.
Right?
It's
Maybe
also
you're
sunk cost.
maybe you're afraid of losing your worldview.
And
Yeah,
why would that
and
bother me?
what the other worldview might entail.
And maybe
The
you're
end of
maybe
the
you're
authority
married
you
to your
trust.
worldview and you love it.
What would that entail? How would my life change if the Earth were flat? You think?
Who cares?
Well,
Oh, you're
that's up to you because the Earth doesn't really change. Nothing in like objective reality
Yeah.
changes. Just you
And,
do.
and so, what would be my motivation for hanging on to a globe Earth then, if nothing changes in my life?
Well, maybe you're
Trust
married
in
to it.
authority.
I would say your
Good
ego doesn't
question.
want to let you realize that you've been fooled your whole life.
But finally, Scott, you're starting to ask yourself the important questions that you should be asking yourself. So well
I've been
done. You're
asking these
making
questions.
progress.
I've been asking these questions for over 40 years now,
Wow.
and,
This is
and
still where you're at.
I've changed my opinion on a great many things.
Do you got one example? Just
I
to
used to be
see
a
I can
Republican.
follow it.
I used to be a Republican when I was younger.
Wow. Who doesn't change from
Yeah, the political.
conservative from liberal?
I used to believe in a God.
No, he's saying he's gone from like yeah, he went from conservative to liberal is what he's saying.
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, okay.
It's like the reverse.
And so can men have
And
babies?
and to be fully honest, I'm pretty sure I used to be very racist, and I've been working
Okay,
on
but
that
about
for a good
the
45 years
globe
now,
though.
trying to
No,
beat
you were
that out
just
of
a
me.
bigot. That's all. You were a bigot. Because
I
you still
was.
are.
I
So
was. It's true.
it's just racism is just like a subset of that.
Hey. I mean, when I was growing up, when we did eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch something by the toe, we didn't use tiger. And that was disgusting now that I think about it. But that's the neighborhood I grew up in.
That's a Mandela effect.
It's
So
not.
can
I know what we
would
used
you
to say.
agree? Would
Just
you
kidding.
agree that men can have babies then? Are you with that party?
That's a definition argument.
That's not.
So do you agree or
No,
not agree?
nobody thinks biological males can have babies. The question is biological male the same thing as man? And people are saying
Ooh.
no.
What do you say?
What do you think?
I think gender is something that someone can choose.
Oh,
Okay.
It doesn't make them any.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the biology one bit, right?
Just take what he said and make what you will of it, and let's put
Yeah,
a pin
let's
on
leave it on that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's the end of that
You wouldn't ask
chapter.
a biologist to see who's male and female? What?
It's not the topic.
No,
We're on
no.
Earth.
Yeah. But
I'm
see,
still
but
So let's
you guys are
continue
aware that
pushing for Earth.
but you guys are aware that we do think you guys suffer from all these things you're thinking. You're afraid of something, right? We a lot of
I
us
dare
think that at some
say
point.
that
Yeah,
that is
back to this
something you tell
we.
yourself, Scott. But
Yeah, I know.
Scott,
That's the
yeah,
same
we
But we
know
thing.
what you
the
struggle.
only
think.
thing I'm
The
afraid of with
guy.
you.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing the guy said in the anti-flat Earth video when he is talking about philosophy and where we go wrong. And literally he said one of the things that they go wrong is looking at something, and because it looks that way, therefore it is. That's exactly what you guys do with Sunset, that's exactly what you do with the horizon. Well, it looks like boats are cut off, and that's because it is physically blocked. Because that's what
And
it
why
looks
should
like.
I agree. That's what we do. Why would you do anything else?
The only
No,
thing
I'm
I'm
just
afraid of
telling
is
you.
that
I'm
one
just
day I
telling
stop
you that.
questioning everything.
I'm just telling you that it was, somebody that was a globe earther,
Mhm.
who's talking about philosophy and pointing out where we error in logic. But it's not actually us that does that. It's actually you guys.
And so what do you do then? How do you not err?
Not that. I don't look at stuff and go, whoop, there it is.
What do you do then?
Not that.
Okay, so what do you do? Let's not talk what you don't do. Let's
Not
talk what you do do.
that. Not
See,
that.
this is what I find interesting about flat earthers. You never say
Okay, I
what you
use the I
do.
use
You
the
always say what you
scientific
don't
method
do.
to establish cause and effect relationships, which has nothing to do with affirming the consequent, begging the question, or reification fallacies. Now what?
Okay. So when you see the boat go over the horizon, what do you do?
It's not
What goes on,
science.
what goes on in
That's
your
a.
mind?
It's not science.
Okay,
Sorry,
what is it then?
being as I know myself that I can make things disappear from the bottom up on a known flat surface, I'm not going to just assert that the cutting off of the bottom of objects can only be seen because of physical obstruction.
Okay, so we determined there are other ways to do it. How did you determine what's happening with the boat then?
Well, you just determine that they can disappear over flat surfaces. Therefore, oh snap, there's something going on with the optics because you don't need something to physically obstruct something for it to appear that way.
Okay,
That
so
that's what
what's
you
wrong?
learn. That's what you learn from the step of probably assuming it, like you guys do.
And so what do you do then?
We just told you what we did.
Okay, so when you say things can be cut off, what are the situations, what are the conditions under which things can disappear from the bottom up, not being blocked by something?
Well, I'd say my
Oh,
experience, I fell over at a skating rink and my head was on the floor, and I noticed that I couldn't observe the blades of the skates of the people on the far side of the rink. Now, this was a skating rink, a known flat surface, but I couldn't observe the blades. I could see the shoes. It looked like they were skating on shoes, but they weren't. They were skating on blades, but I couldn't see them. So therefore, I was observing the effect that I can't resolve the bottom of that object because my face is too low to the floor. Demonstrated that a known flat surface, and if I've got a low angle to it, the bottom of objects will be unresolvable to me.
Okay, so what angles did that require then?
My head was on the fucking floor, so my eyeballs were no more than 2 inches off the surface of the ice. It was fucking cold down there.
Yeah. And
So
so
being a known flat surface and I couldn't resolve the blades of the skates, then it
uh
wasn't physical obstruction, now was it?
sure, okay, I can assume that, and we can take that as a given. We'll even assume the ice was flat and not warped from the Zamboni pushing water and freezing it and making a little mound. We can assume that. But it's
Awesome.
also
So
possible that the ice is not flat, right?
it's also possible that we can demonstrate this on other known flat surfaces as well. I'm just giving you my real life personal experience. But we can make things disappear from the bottom up if we're low enough to that surface and the thing is at distance. The bottom of that
Yeah,
object will be unresolvable because it's probably entered an angle of 0.02.
yeah. Okay, so we can go with that 0.02 stuff, right? And so how far away would the sun have to go at what altitude to get you a 0.02 angle of
yeah, but
resolution?
isn't that a red herring? Because we're talking about the quality of your question. Now you're asking us for a quantity when we don't even know where the sun is.
This is what a lot of us do. We do try to put the mathematics and try to get specific.
Not we, because you said we were talking about where you go wrong, and then you said, "Well, what about us?" And here's another thing that you're trying to. We wouldn't be doing what you're asking. We wouldn't be
What what
inquiring such things because, again,
what would you be doing?
you asked for the quality of an argument, and it was given to you, and now you're asking us about the sun. Well, we couldn't possibly know. We don't know where the sun is. We don't know exactly what's going on, so we don't concern ourselves with trying to answer questions without adequate information.
But you do know that a lot of people out who do concern themselves with these things, and they think they figured
Yeah,
out the answer.
pseudoscientists and people who are willing to affirm the consequent, beg the question, and reify.
Yeah, they feel they're obligated to provide answers when they're not.
And so you don't think it's an interesting question to try to guess how far away the moon is?
No.
If
Why
you
not?
can, if we're
Because there's
able to
no, there's
measure,
A lot of
no,
us
there's
do.
no, there's, hold on, because there's no like pragmatism in that.
if we're able to
It's just
measure
idle
the speed,
curiosity. We're just curious
No,
creatures, all of
okay,
us.
out of curiosity, like I said, you asked me why. I told you why. Because there's
Okay.
actually no reason we would need to know that. Only people that need to know that are people who think they're going to the moon.
if we're able to measure the speed of light,
And so what you seem to be
we
saying is you're only
100%.
interested in things you need to know.
No, I'm only interested in things that I know that I can know.
If we're able
Well,
to
no,
measure
that's
the
not
speed of
true.
light, we
I try to
100% are
know
able
something.
to identify how far away the sun is and where it is.
Yeah, we can
And
only establish establish its angular relationship. That's it.
But we also can establish how far it is away by
it's
the speed at
and
which
can
light
we
reaches us.
agree that that angular relationship does not change in the course of a night?
Yeah. Like if I'm able to measure like the light coming from the sun, I can then in turn measure how far away the sun actually is.
No, you
Can you then?
can't because you can't do trig on celestial bodies.
But we don't need to trig to do an angular
You
relationship,
don't need
right? Or an angular. What's the word I'm looking for? Angular resolution.
Can't measure the one-way speed
Okay,
of
you'd
light.
have to know the distance. How would you know the distance?
based on the time it takes the light to get to my fucking face. I don't know, but
I don't get what that means. Because when you're
We
dealing with
you,
angular size, then you
if
would
I'm
have to either know the distance or the size, and all we know is the apparent size.
okay. Let's go with parent size then. So if we take a telescope or
Well, it's not a
binoculars or
real
something.
size; it's just the apparent size. So
Okay, but can we agree that the apparent size does not change through the course of a night?
it doesn't matter.
But can we agree to it though? If it
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter, then you can
matter
say yes,
because
right?
you're trying to apply a method
See,
incorrectly. I'm trying to tell you can't do that.
I'm just
I
trying to
mean, you
put forth
could
an
You
do
don't.
that, but
observation.
He doesn't need our approval to make a claim. Just make your claim.
I just want to talk to human beings. Yeah, my
if
observation of the moon over the course of a night, its size does not change one bit. It looks the same
if
size throughout the entire night.
if light
You guys
travels
share that observation.
if light travels 300,000 kilometers per second, I can identify how far away the sun is just by that.
See, I don't know why you guys are
If
so
it
resistant to
takes
this.
it
You
takes
guys got
8
something
minutes
you
for
need to
it
believe this for some reason. You can't answer simple questions.
takes 8 minutes for that shit to reach the Earth. That would firmly establish
Oh
where the
shit!
sun
Do I
is
have
in
someone
relation to
muted?
Earth.
Fuck, sorry.
You've already assumed the distance before you made the calculation there.
Fuck. I had P3 muted for some reason.
But guys, notice this conversation, this particular part of the conversation started with because we said you guys just look at stuff and go, whoop, there it is. And then you said, well, what do you do? And then I responded, well, I use the scientific method correctly.
What was the last thing you used the scientific method on?
Boiling water.
Seriously?
Yep.
That's what you're going with?
Yep.
Mike, yes, mate. Sorry. Do cause and effect relationships happen in the physical and natural world? Do other things cause other things to happen?
Oh, I assume so. Yeah.
Awesome. That's what science
That's an
studies, cause
axiom.
and effect relationships in the physical and natural world. We study what causes phenomena to happen.
Well, but everything doesn't
And,
have to be science, right?
well, if we're going to be elucidating to what causes things to happen, then science would be the tool that we can most definitely test and experiment with to demonstrate what is causing stuff to happen. Being as cause and effect relationships happen in the physical and natural world and science studies that shit, then I don't see your point. Or are you just going to deny cause and effect in the physical and natural world? Other things cause other things to happen. That doesn't happen to you then, no?
No, it definitely happens, of course.
Awesome stuff. So science studies that. That would be a useful tool to elucidate what causes shit to happen.
Correct.
Good. So we don't have to just talk about boiling water. We can talk about any other cause and effect relationship in the physical and natural world, which science studies.
I agree. So what's the last thing you studied?
What right
Again,
now?
You. But again, like either you disagree or you agree. You don't have to ask us what we've studied. Either you agree with the method or you don't.
I agree with the method.
Okay, so like I was talking about with trigonometry, either you agreed with the method or you didn't. You asked us, well, what about the sun? So, and I told you, well, you can't do trig on the sun.
We were talking about the moon.
I know, but
And we
that
can't
was
do
a
trig
red
on the
herring, then,
sun.
wasn't it? Because we were talking about trigonometry,
But we can't do trig on the sun.
but we was talking about trigonometry though. And so again, um, something that I just wanted you to agree to the quality of. And instead of doing that, you wanted to go on another goose chase.
I just want to find out where we agree and where we disagree.
But why couldn't you just agree with that? What works is what works. You want to ask us,
Okay,
well, what if I
what
do this
works?
thing? We already started this conversation and had it already. But you're the one that keeps running away from it by changing the subject.
What is
Can I suggest that we give someone else a chance? Scott, you've spoken for quite a while.
Huh?
Thanks for participating. P3, you here?
What is your profession?
See, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.